Okay, we are live.
Excellent, buddy. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Welcome back. Good afternoon, good evening, depending on when you are watching this back. Good morning, Daniel. Thanks for jumping on with us this morning, buddy. Nice to have you back. Nice to have you back among us. Yeah, glad you've had a speedy recovery. Glad you're feeling a little bit more yourself, mate. Yeah. How are things going sort of this week? You know, sort of obviously restrictions have lifted. Has there been much change for you? Is it sort of business as usual?
Yeah, I mean, well, coming out of isolation, obviously I COVID, so like
Mm-hmm.
yesterday was the first day that I really left the house and
Okay.
went for like a walk and stuff like that. So it was good to actually be out for the first time in like 2 weeks and
Yeah.
I see fresh air again, and obviously felt like I needed it so much when you just cooped up in the house, especially if you've been ill
Mhm.
and you cooped up in the house. It's terrible, man. It doesn't feel
Yeah.
good at all. So just getting out
And the
anyway,
weather's like that, yeah.
dude,
And
and
then
it's
when the
like,
sun's shining, yeah,
I mean, like I've been like on quarantine and it's like 30-degree heat, so it's like
yeah, yeah.
it's insane. Like, I mean, I think it was like 22 degrees or something yesterday.
It's
But
been roasting, hasn't it? So you've been not very well, stuck indoors, and the weather's been lovely outside, man. You know that's torture. I'm glad that you're getting there. I'm glad you've got your freedom back, even if it was a day after everybody else. You
definitely,
know,
man.
if yesterday was the first day you sort of left the house. Of course, it's probably worth mentioning, just because restrictions have lifted, COVID hasn't gone away. Of course, still be safe, look after yourself, look after the people around you. You know, and sort of. Just respect everybody easing back into things at their own time as well. You know, that of course, just because restrictions have lifted doesn't mean everybody's at the same place mentally with it, you know, and we're all ready for hugs and high fives and sharing personal space and stuff like that. So I think there's going to be, obviously, we've got to show each other a little bit of respect when it comes to that side of things and just sort of appreciating each other's feelings and just the fact that it's been, you know what, it's been a long 18 months,
Oh
you know,
yeah,
and a lot of what we're classing as going back to normal might not even feel normal anymore.
true that.
You know, it's been that long, you know, so just steady. Don't feel rushed into anything that you're not ready for. And at the same time, you know, just respect other people's feelings as well. That said, I hope we're all getting out and enjoying the weather because it has been absolutely lovely. You know, even if like it's been, do you know what? I love the sun, mate, but it's been too hot for me the last few days. Like middle of the day,
Yeah,
I've
too
been hiding
crazy.
indoors with Alex and the pooch, like because you know what? I'll go out first thing on the morning, later on at night when it's cooled down. It's absolutely lovely this time of year, but middle of the day, it's just far too much, isn't it? You know, sometimes.
Crazy. Well, I've done one of the best investments ever was like I got a little fan, and like literally
Nice, nice.
it's insane. That makes the best difference ever. Like just like a little
Yeah,
fan, man, and have that in my room, and it's the actual like godsend really, like because it's
yeah.
just like I look because I was skitzing out because I was thinking like I probably use loads of electric, but they don't use much electric at
No,
all. Something like
no.
it's like 1.5p a day or something. So I was like,
Is it?
yeah, so it was like nothing. So I was like, okay, cool.
Pays for itself, mate, and then pretty much, yeah.
I
But
know,
well worth it.
man.
Well worth it.
Literally like because otherwise you're just so hot in your room, and it's just like
Yeah.
it's nice to have someone just blowing some cold air on you and does the job.
Yeah, yeah, we the same. Like we got like a standing fan last year when it was pretty
Yeah,
similar to this, and now that the pooch is here and he's black and he just absorbs the heat, he's got the fan most of the time pointing at him in his little crate, and me and Alex are sat there sweltering, and like something's got to give, man. It's not right.
yeah.
It's not right. But yeah, it makes a world of difference at the minute, doesn't it? You know, I've even been managing to get outside and do a little bit of like sort of stretching and stuff like that, just because the breeze is nicer. You know, of course,
Oh, man.
again, maybe it's not in the midday heat, you know, and doing burpees and running and jumping and whatever it might be. But even if you just like earlier on, later on, when the temperature's not at its peak for the day, get yourself outside and do just a little bit of exercise. You know, we've got videos up on the channel. You can have a little stretch. I've actually attached just a nice little stretching video to today's session. Just because I'm aware, obviously, restrictions lifting. Now might be the week that a few people are starting to think, okay, right, what do I do with fitness now? I've got a few more things available to me. It might not mean that you're going to rush off out to the gym or anything like that. You know, we've spoke before. The gym isn't necessarily for everybody, and it might just be a little bit soon post lockdown for you to be doing that sort of thing. You know, but there's something on our channel for everybody. You know, even if it is just a stretching video, a chair based workout, or of course everything at the other end of the spectrum as well. That's a little bit harder and a bit more intense. So definitely check that out, guys. And like I say, get yourself outside, get some stretching, even if it's a walk, get some fresh air, you know, because it's absolutely lovely. And a couple of months ago when it was raining, cold and miserable, we couldn't wait for the weather to be like this, you know. So let's
Right.
make the most of it while it's here, for
Right.
sure, you
Oh,
know.
that video is in the description as well if anybody wants to watch that like after the session. So just to let
Oh,
you know.
awesome, buddy. Nice one. Thank you very much. So it's in the description, and of course that'll take you straight to the playlist as well, and you can have a bit of a scout around and see what else is on there as well. Right, guys. So let's dive into it then. So we're on week 6 of our pre-employability and well-being course, which leaves us only 1 week to go next week, and it's absolutely flown over. Now we've got a chance this morning to talk about something that I know a lot of you are really interested in, and it's more the nutritional side of things. And we're thinking about some of our eating habits, especially because you know what, at the minute, especially with the weather being nice. There's been multiple days in the last week I've woke up and gone, you know what, I can have a barbecue. I'd love a barbecue today. Like I could do a barbecue, and again, we might be finding ourselves going to our first social event barbecue sort of thing in probably 2 years, since, because obviously last summer was a total write-off, really, so maybe it's social, maybe you want to go along, maybe you want to be thinking about your food and eating healthy, but also not the only person that takes like rice and chicken and spinach to a barbecue and just sits and eats it out the Tupperware. Do you know what I mean? So it's balance, and it's managing that, and it's little treats in moderation and stuff like that as well. Now I know full well that there's going to be celebrations this week, even just sort of a couple of households getting together and being able to celebrate in the back garden or whatever, it's something that has kind of been available for probably a month or two now, meeting up with the households outdoors, especially, but I think that there'll be a lot more people feeling comfortable going to do it now. And like I say, you're going to be in that position. Do you want a beer? Do you want a burger? Do you want another burger? Do you want a hot dog? Do you want this? Do you want that? And the temptation is going to be there to say, do you know what? It's been a long time since we've been able to do something like this. I'm going to enjoy myself. And you know what? I would advise that, enjoy yourself. Like, how many calories are you going to save yourself by saying, no, I don't want that. I don't want a burger. Just go for it. You know what I mean? And that's me saying that, just make the most of it. Because like I say, the reason that we're here and the reason that we're learning and we try and learn this information is so we can manage our lifestyle and our food in a way that lets us do the things that we want to do. Like, what is the point in eating well and exercising well to feel good and then just deprive yourself of all the stuff that actually makes you happy? Like, it's counterproductive, if you ask me, So being able to understand food enough to say, okay, this is how I'm going to fit this event in. This is how I'm going to make room for a couple of beers that's not going to show up on the scales next week. That's where the value of this information comes into me. There's knowing what a carbohydrate does, there's knowing what protein does, but then there's knowing how you can use that information to manage your own lifestyle and just help things be a little bit more sustainable. And that's the end game, really, I guess, because that's where people are going to be more flexible, and really that's where people can start to spread their own wings a little bit, because they don't need the constant guidance. They've got the information, they can put it all together in a way that works best for themselves. And like I say, it's just one of those things that just takes a little bit of time. You look at the information a couple of times, but the more you do it, the more familiar you get with it. And like I said, looking at eating habits as well is a big thing, not just what's actually coming in, but the mental process and the mental side and of our relationship with food as well, because sometimes, of course, eating, it's not always for fuel. Sometimes it is emotional, sometimes it's comfort eating, sometimes it goes the other way and we don't eat very much because of stress. Some of us lose our appetite rather than gaining an appetite, so we've got this relationship with food as well that we're always sort of managing and updating, I guess, sort of as we're going through life. So being able to just pick out a couple of habits, and do you know what, like, it might not even be stuff that you realize that you do, but when we get into today's session, you might go, yeah, that's me, cup of tea. I do that all the time. Do you know what I mean? I can't have a cup of tea without a couple of biscuits. Just little things like that, things that you pair up. So yeah, we'll get a little bit of a look into that. And again, guys, if you do want to join in the chat and just sort of shout up and let me know any that you think do apply to you, then by all means do. Of course, we're going to be talking about some ways that we can work around some of these problems. But if you've got anything in particular that you think, look, I'm really struggling with this, drop me a message, because it might be something I've come across with a PT client over the years and I've maybe already found a way around, so again, don't be worried about just dropping me an email. And like Daniel says, all of it's in the description below the video, including my email as well. I mean, you've probably already got it, but if you don't, it's in the description for the video. And then, yeah, just give me a shout if you've got any questions. Okay, guys, so little bit of a sort of overview of what we're going to do today. We're going to be looking at the food pyramid, which is giving us an idea of what a balanced diet's going to look like. It's going to tell us, sort of what portion of what different food groups we maybe want in our diet, and we're going to be looking at portion sizes as well, because I feel like that's quite a big thing. How easy is it to just get a plate, not really think about it, just load the plate up, and then do you know what, a lot of us are brought up not to waste anything, so you're just going to eat whatever's on your plate. It's one of those things that sounds so sort of out of left field, but some of the biggest success I've had with clients over the years is just saying, get a smaller plate, load it up as much as you want, because you're not getting as much on it. Go for it. You know what I mean? Knock yourself out, and you're still going to end up eating less. And you can actually trick your mind into feeling like you've had a really big meal if your plates come really loaded up, but it's just on a smaller plate. And like I say, it's funny how the mind works sometimes when it comes to our relationship with food. Then we're going to be looking at overeating, not exercising, which I'm sure is something that a lot of us have probably faced over the last year, because let's be honest, exercise and doing some stretches, doing a little bit of running hasn't been a priority for everybody. There's been family's health, there's been looking after vulnerable family members, of course there's been financial implications of COVID and everything that's going on with the economy. Like, I'm not under the illusion that everybody's had time and the bandwidth to think about their health and their certainly their food. We've been in positions where you've gone to the shop to buy what you would normally buy and it's been sold out, or you've not been able to get it. So it has been a challenging time. I'm sure for everybody in different ways, and I'm sure that well into the future we're going to be hearing about ways that people have sort of or problems that people have come across through COVID that other people might not have thought about, just because it's so far removed from their own circumstances. But yeah, it's been a difficult time to get hold of food, regular food, consistent food, good food. I think it was it was certainly at the start of this year, it seemed like supermarkets seemed to go through a phase where certain veg and certain fruit was hard to get in. It's funny that, of course, it's not deliberate at all, but of course, all the processed stuff was there on the shelves. All the stuff that's not so good for our body, the stuff that's got a shelf life of years because it's easier to ship, it's easier to sort of produce. That fresh stuff that was coming out of the ground, that of course that our body needs, was drying up in parts of the country. I couldn't get hold of certain things for. I don't know if that was anything that you sort of struggled with, buddy. Was that anything that you sort of came across?
Yeah,
Stuff
absolutely.
stuff that you normally buy.
Of course, yeah, it was so weird, dude. It was like I remember just going into the shop and if you didn't get there by a certain time, all of the fresh produce was gone. There would just be no meat there at all. It would be like
Yeah.
bits of maybe a couple like bits of pork. That would be it. But like the shelf would just be bare. There would be no meat there at all. And
Yeah.
it was weird. It was like this weird scarcity thing. And I think obviously it was just like a chain of issues, really. I mean, there was the one issue where people were hoarding.
Yeah, you've
So
got panic buying and
panic
hoarding.
buying.
Yeah.
And then also, I think deliveries were delayed because of COVID. Like, you didn't have the workers, people having to isolate and weren't able to get the food to the shop. So I think that was
Yeah.
also, and then obviously imports as well. There was issues importing food because of COVID restrictions. So I think it was like a whole.
Yeah.
There were a lot of
Yeah.
different problems.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely, mate. So it's not it is quite a probably quite a common thing that people have faced, especially in the last 6 months. Maybe you've just had to make compromises, and of course, especially if you're providing for other people, you're providing for your family. If you've got kids, you just got to put food on the table, haven't you? That's where the focus is, and especially through the way that things have been over the last year plus, the last year, 18 months. Like, it has just been a case for a lot of us just sort of getting through, maybe it's even just one day at a time. So again, now is maybe a really good chance to just sort of try and recollect yourself a little bit, and think about what do things look like going forward. I'm not comfortable enough to throw out the term post-COVID because it hasn't gone anywhere. But certainly post-lockdown, what do things look post-lockdown? What does it look like for you? How do you get exercise in? How do you get good food in? And how do you start to address maybe some of the bad habits that have cropped up over the last year? Because do you know what? That's long enough for bad habits to set in. Maybe stuff that you didn't need to address 2 years ago. Maybe there's new stuff that you've got to be thinking about now as well. So plenty of chance to sort of, like I say, dive in the chat. Really a bit of a free-for-all this morning, talking about food, habits that I've noticed over the years. And of course, I'm always keen to hear your guys' perspectives as well, Daniel, yourself as well, buddy, and just see, where we're at as we're all kind of coming together again, reconnecting after, like I say, the restrictions that have been put in place for the last year, And then we're going to be looking at, ironically, we're going to be looking at how technology's influenced our health over the last 30 years, technology that is ironically, like I say, the only thing that's allowed us to do any delivery over the last year, to stay connected with our learners and to stay connected with each other and family and friends. Technology has been absolutely amazing in that sense. But what has it meant for over the last 30 years for our health? And that's a topic that I just want to explore towards the back end of this morning's session as well, because I'm sure there's pros and cons both sides, and I'll be interested to hear what you guys are thinking as well. Okay, buddy, if you don't mind just rolling onto the first slide then, the one that's just paired titled Overeating. Like I say, we're just going to have a little bit of we're just going to stop here and have a little bit of a ponder and think reasons why people do end up overeating, like I say, I'm probably the other way. I always tend to find myself, if I'm in a position where I'm stressed or really struggling for time or whatever, or going through something that's particularly emotional, I've always found that my appetite sort of deserts me a little bit. I don't know what you're like, buddy, but I'm like, I've never been a comfort eater. Like food becomes like a little bit of a non-thought to me sometimes, which is something I have to be aware of.
Yeah. I think on both ends of the scale, really. I think if I feel like crap, like if I'm upset or something, if eating some chocolate or eating some bad food definitely makes me feel better. But then I can totally relate in the sense that if I've got a job interview or something like that, I'm not eating anything until I've got that interview, because I just can't, and then it's just won't go down. You know what I mean? So it's like, or a presentation or something like that. I can't eat before it. It's just like It's like, I'll have to like wash it down with water because it's how it gets that bad, man.
Yeah, that's it. It's funny you say that. Actually, when I did that speech at my sister's wedding, they had deliberately planned so speeches came before food, so
good idea.
I could just get it out of the way and I could actually eat my meal. And at the same time, I guess everybody wasn't sitting there thinking, "God, I wish they would shut up. I'm starving." Like that. Like, let's be honest, 75% of people at a wedding, you're like, "I'm hungry now. I'm hungry now." But yeah, I was over the moon that they did the speeches first. It was out the way with, and mate, I absolutely scrammed that dinner down, no bother. Whereas if it had been the other way around, I wouldn't have been able to touch it, man.
Yeah.
So like I say, I think I'm more the other way, but I've definitely experienced both ends of the spectrum. I know that you're sort of saying that you've been in situations where you've gone either way as well. Of course, stress is a big thing why people end up overeating. I don't know. It could be a mix of, like Daniel says, sort of like that dopamine, the chemical reaction of eating something nice that your brain, for however long it lasts, really, really enjoys. And it's almost like I say, a chemical sort of boost that makes you feel better, that helps pick you up, not just stress, but of course maybe a little bit. I don't want to go as far as to say full on depression, because I know that is a clinical term that has its own criteria. But of course, down days, low days, depressive symptoms, I guess, when you're just having one of those days, like food it's usually the wrong sort of food, like the sugary foods and the salty foods that, like I say, your brain is almost programmed to just release that chemical into your system and just make you feel a little bit better, albeit temporarily. And you know what? It's quite fleeting as well, isn't it? So that is why later on you go back for another little boost and another little boost and another boost, and you can kind of end up just eating junk all day. Because it's almost like a crutch at that point, isn't it? You're relying on it to help deal with these particular feelings. So another reason people might overeat is, of course, funnily enough, time management. Either I haven't got enough time and I've just got to eat whatever's there, or I've got too much time and I'm sort of waiting until I'm starving to then think about what I'm going to eat. And then I can't be bothered to stand and wait 45 minutes or an hour to cook something and wait for something to cook that's going to be decent. I'm just gonna eat the wrong stuff that's handy. I'm going to put that oven pizza in that takes 15 minutes, rather than standing and making yourself a nice meal. And again, calories add up. you know. I guess one of the things that we could put on this list would just be potentially a lack of understanding. You know, how many of us just or lack of knowing what is going in your body. How many of us just sort of eat what we eat every day and have no idea at the end of the day where we're at calorie wise.
True.
You know, am I on 1,000? Am I on 1,500? Am I on 3,000? You know, and it's one of them things where you don't even have to get your calories bang on. Even just thinking about starting to be mindful of your calories and starting to think about it a little bit. You know, if you can have like a rough idea where you are on calories by the end of the day, it doesn't have to be bang on, but it's better than ending each day sort of in the dark. You know, like I say, you really can overeat. You get to 9 o'clock tea time and you're thinking, oh, I can do with a little snack. You don't know whether you can afford any more calories that day or not, really. You know, again, you know, potentially not necessarily overeating, but maybe he's eating the wrong stuff, is not knowing what role the food plays in our diet. You know, what do carbohydrates do? When do you need them? How many of them do you need? And like I said, that sort of lack of information, which is why we're here where we are now. You know, sort of discussing the nutritional side of things. And like I say, thinking about just understanding what is in the food that we're eating as well. And I guess another big one is food labels. You know, how often do you pick up a food label? Or how many of us pick up a food label and it's just a wall of text, it's just information, it's just numbers. It's like, you know that bit in the Matrix where it's just numbers going up and down the screen.
Yeah.
Like that's what a food label looks like. Like if you've never looked at one before, you don't really know what you're looking for. Like it's just gibberish, really. You know, how do I know what's good for me? Are saturated fats good? Are unsaturated fats good? You know, so knowing the information, you know.
Some of the chemicals as well. It's like knowing what they actually are, you know, like some of the additives and stuff like that.
Yeah.
If you actually start to like kind of look into what some of the stuff that they put in is, because it'll just be like some crazy name and you just would never know what that is otherwise. And then you're like, if you Google it, you can see that, oh, it's, you know, it helps keep the food together or something like that.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. You can get some scary results when you Google some of them extra ingredients. You really can.
Yeah, I think it's
When you
crazy.
realize what it's used for in other applications, you know.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's crazy when you get some of the processed food and it'll be like some chicken and it'll say like chicken like 30%, and then it'll be like there's a bunch of other stuff that makes it up. So it's like
definitely. You know, not to mention a load of water in there as well. You know, it's crazy. You know, but that's a really good point as well, buddy. You know, there's so many reasons why we can actually end up sort of overeating. We can even you can have a rough idea of calories, and of course you can still end up overeating as well. I've had clients over the years and gym members that have come up to me and said like, oh, I'm eating clean to lose weight. Now their idea of clean is probably just ideas that they've picked up on Pinterest or Instagram or whatever it might be. It's just being sold as clean food, but clean food might involve stuff like nuts.
Yeah.
You know, that's a real food. It comes out of the earth, but can still be quite high in calories because of the amount of fat that's in there. It's good fat that your body needs, and you're much better getting your fat through that than a Mars bar or a cheeseburger or something like that. You know, your body still needs those fats, but you can still eat too many of them.
Of course,
you know, it doesn't matter really in terms of a weight gain versus weight loss. It's calories in versus calories out, really, isn't it? You know, there's been sort of tests done and research done. I think there was one guy over in America who essentially just lived off Twinkies and junk food for like a month.
Yeah.
But because he worked out that he needed like 2,000 calories a day, for example.
Yeah.
So he only ate 1,800 calories a day in Twinkies, and he lost weight. He lost weight because he was expending more energy than he was bringing in. You know. So that we've got those both ends of the spectrum that we need to look at, you know, and when it comes to weight gain and weight loss. Now, clean food is better for health, you know, because of course when we think about nutrition, it's not just weight gain and weight loss. We're thinking about nutrients and vitamins and minerals and making sure that we feel good as well, you know, because like we've sort of said and we've mentioned in the past, especially when we come to talk about bodybuilders and stuff like that, you can look really, really good and really, really lean and be carrying no body fat without being particularly healthy, you know? So, of course, we want to get that balance in there as well. It's not just about weight gain and weight loss. You know what? It's about balancing it out, isn't it? You know, but yeah, a lot of good reasons there why we might end up overeating, and that's just sort of like off the top of our heads as well. You know,
exactly.
it's so easy to fall into these habits. You know, there's potential sort of not guilt would be the wrong word, but you know, like if somebody comes up to you and says, "Hey, you go, I've made you this cake." Do you know what I mean? Like you gotta eat it. Or if I've made a cake. I've made a cake. Do you want a slice? Oh, go on then. I don't want to seem like, I don't want to seem ungrateful. Or I don't want to. I don't want to say no. You know, and just little things like that. You
Oh,
know,
that's it, man.
can soon add up. It really can. And do you know what? Probably one of the biggest ones that we haven't mentioned so far is alcohol. Um,
Yeah, really, yeah. That's a good point.
Liquid calories are still calories at the end of the day. You know, I've seen people over the years that will like save themselves 300 calories a day throughout the week and then get to the weekend and just drink all of that deficit away, you know, and
Dude,
just drink
like,
all of that progress away. They get the Monday and get on the scales and go, I've not lost any weight. I'm like, well, all of those salads that you ate last week, you've just gone out over the weekend and cancelled them out pretty much.
I mean, people like drink like 10 pints, like 15 pints, like a
Mm-hmm.
heavy drinker,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
like in one night, and that's like insane. Like
Yeah.
not me obviously. I like if I have
I'm
like
gonna
maybe
say,
3 pints, I'll probably be dead. But like
yeah,
I've seen the people do that. I like drink like 10,
yeah.
12 pints,
Mhm.
and that's like 10, 12 pints of beer. How many calories per pint? I mean, that's a lot, you know. So and
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, in one night, that's a hell of a lot of calories.
yeah.
So
Let's have a look. Actually, let's have a look. Should we go with pick me a beverage, bit? Pick us a
let's
beverage.
just say
What
like a pint of Colin or something, or a pint of
pint of
Foster's.
Carling? Yeah. Calories in pint of.
Because it's going to be a lot, you know. I mean, and I think that if people drink, you know, as many as they do of that, because you got to think like that's a binge. If you're drinking 10 pints in a night, that's
It
like
is.
that's a
It is.
binge, you know, because you wouldn't eat
Mhm.
that much food, you know. You wouldn't
Yeah.
you would in any other circumstance you would never drink that much. You would never drink that much water. So it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it's only because it's alcohol, but obviously,
Yeah.
you
Your
know,
body would cope better if you took those 15 pints and had three a night, 5 days a week. It's still
yeah,
not ideal, but it's
true.
better than like in one night, 15 pints in. You know.
But that's
So
it, dude. I
this.
mean, it's you think about it. That you listen to that though, right? That how, it's such an interesting point because if you did that, right, if you drank 3 pints a night every day of the week, people would say you're an alcoholic. But because you do it in
Well,
one
yeah.
day, then that person's not an alcoholic. But they actually
Yeah.
are. They kind of are in a way because it's like that's a binge drinking if you're drinking that much on it every weekend.
Yeah.
Um, you know, it's not that much different than if you're doing it if you do 3 pints a night because then you would think, well, 3 pints a night, you're drinking it every single night. But it's like,
Mm.
well, the damage you're doing to your body is probably equivalent if you're
Yeah.
having that much alcohol in one night every weekend. So
Yeah, yeah, you know, and then like you say, that like the calories add up as well, you know. So calories in a pint of Foster's apparently is 205 calories in a pint. So if you're having 15 of them, we're on well over sort of like 3,000 calories in alcohol alone,
and
and it
that
really.
person has had probably, you know, like food throughout the day as well. Probably had 2 meals at least. So
Well, yeah, yeah, you know, like who's going out and drinking 15 pints on an empty stomach?
I know
You
exactly.
know, exactly like you say, buddy. Not to mention, do you stop at the kebab shop on the way home? Do you stop at the chippy or the pizza shop or something like
Exactly.
that?
Yeah, yeah. Get
You
like
know,
a
because it's always a good idea after a few bevies, isn't it? You know, you've got to stop off and get something to soak
kebab
it up.
wrap. Get it.
Yeah, and it adds up. You know, I've had clients that accidentally forget that they've even been to the chippy on the way home the night before. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
you're eating calories that you can't even remember having,
I
and then
know.
you get the Monday morning, you feel like Monday to Friday you've been dead good, and then you get on the scales and like you've not lost any weight. You've maybe even put a little bit of weight on. You know,
Of
depending on
course, yeah.
especially when you've been drinking, are you still retaining a lot of it? Is your body still in that sort of almost sort of hangover sort of state? If you've woke up Sunday dead rough and then you get on the scales Monday morning, your body's not regulated itself anyway, you know, so I haven't even really had a chance. And I guess that's probably the takeaway point. You're not really giving your body chance if you're going out and just, I mean, sitting in as well, because that's probably been the most recent for the last year. Sitting in, like, it's cheaper to sit in and have a few bevies, isn't it, you know? So, um, and you know maybe we've all been a little bit sort of bored with just something to pass the time, you know. I know that like even last summer, like I'm not a big drinker, you know, but when lockdown kicked in and furlough kicked in, it was like, well, do you know what, like we've got a bar downstairs that's stocked up. Like I say, we don't really use it, it's just there in case we have guests over or whatever. And of course we haven't even done that for the last
Yeah, I
year,
know.
so it was a case of, you know what, let's make some cocktails or something like that. But of course, I'm well aware that that's become a habit as well for certain people over lockdown. And is something that is probably going to need addressing, potentially with more help than just ourselves, post lockdown as well. If that is something that you feel is something that you're struggling with, then by all means, like I say, let me know and I'll point you in the right direction where you can maybe get a little bit of help with that. But yeah,
Yeah,
definitely
I just
something to
had a
be
little
aware
look there in it says it was 144 grams, 144 calories in a Jaeger bomb, and you think that's like a shot. So someone will shot that like it's nothing, and that's like still like 144 calories. So it's like
yeah,
that
yeah,
adds up. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Two
To
Jaeger
say
bombs.
who goes out and just does shots? Do you know what
Exactly.
I mean? Like, certainly not me. Certainly not me. I'd be in bed by 10 o'clock. Went out and just did shots. In fact, I'd not say 10 o'clock. I'm lying to you there. Honestly, but yeah, like alcohol is a big thing, and this sort of, I guess, socializing, can lead to overeating as well. Especially if we're all going out for a meal. We're going to the Indian, do you want to come? Like, you don't want to be the only one that says no, and then next thing you know, you're eating like potentially quite a calorific curry, or something like that. You're in a position where you're going along, you're keeping everybody else happy. You sort of like I say, sort of keeping the peace, doing what everybody else is game for. Again, post lockdown, maybe you're just glad to be out with other people, and you're just gonna just go along and whatever. And like I say, you might find yourself in a position where you've got more food available, or maybe it's even sort of forced on you as well.
Yeah, true.
Tell you what, like anybody out there who's lucky enough to have grandparents still with us, like, you go to your grandparents' house, you're getting fed something,
Yeah,
like,
it's over.
isn't it? Yeah, like you may as well just write it off. Like, I think, like, you can only afford one trip to the grandparents a week, otherwise, otherwise the waistline starts to know about it. Like, but it is, it's just that social side of things, and how often do we end up saying, oh, go on then, I'll do it just this once, so go on then, why not? And I think there's going to be a lot of that mindset, and I can totally understand it, over the next couple of weeks or even months, of, do you know what, we've been deprived of so much for so long. Yes, I'm going to have a bit of birthday cake. Yes, I'm going to come over and like, we'll just chuck a buffet on in the garden or something like that. So, like I say, by all means, make the most of the opportunities that we're going to have. I would say, sort of mentioned earlier on, respecting everybody's feelings about COVID and sort of defending your own perspective on it as well. But enjoy yourself. We've got access to stuff that we've not had for so long. And even I'm not going to be that person who's saying, do you know what, all good food all the time. I go with 80% nutritious, 20% delicious. That'll do me.
I love that.
That'll do me. Do you know what I mean? That's enough for me, guys. Spend that 20% on whatever you want. And in order to know what 20% is, we've got to have a rough idea what's going in the body, guys. It doesn't have to be, you've got to write it down calorie for calorie. But if you could just make a note, even of what you've had for breakfast, what you've had for tea, maybe it's even snacks if you're a big snacker. Snacking could easily be on this list, sort of just grazing throughout the day. Again, the fridge has been, what, 10 steps away for most of us, like, for at least a year, and then, like I say, you're in this position where you maybe don't even start thinking about food until you starve, and then you just go and grab whatever's handy, so a lot of different reasons why we might have fallen into this, into some bad eating habits, or finding ourselves overeating over the last year. Definitely, guys, and identifying them is the first way to remove them and address them, I guess. So sort of feeling, which ones are you struggling with the most? What do you feel maybe needs addressing first? Where can we start? Because it's different for everybody. Everybody's absolutely different. It's exactly the same as exercise. The food is exactly the same. It's going to be different for everybody. If there was one diet that everybody could follow, like, everybody would just be doing it. Do you know what I mean? Like, that was going to work for everybody. So again, thinking about your own situation, your own circumstances, where are you struggling the most? What's the biggest barriers you're facing? And then we try and remove them. And it's almost like, I think of it like, can you remember Kaplunk? Remember that game where you used to put all the marbles in the middle and you'd pull a stick out? Like, that's all it is. Just remove one barrier, remove the next one at a time. Sooner or later, the marbles fall, and you've won. Happy days, I think that's the big kid in us coming through there. But do you know what it is? It's just little wins, it's baby steps, it's setting the foundation. Because, like I've said over and over again, if we take your nutrition and your diet now and flip it totally on its head, it's not going to be sustainable. It could be the best diet in the world. It could be the best exercise plan in the world. If you you as an individual can't stick at it for whatever reason, it's not going to do its job. The best thing for you is the one that is personalized to you, that is taken what is normal for you right now and just started to improve it with little tweaks. That is the way that we do it. That's the way that I've always done it. Little tweaks, small and sustainable. If you can pick up a new habit each week, you've got 52 new habits by the end of the year. You're living a different lifestyle. That's the way that I've always thought about it, and just identifying where you feel like you need to start is, of course, usually the best place to start. Okay then, buddy, if we can just roll on to the next slide then, please do.
Yeah.
Exercise. We're thinking about reasons why people might not exercise, and let's get the obvious one out the way first. Of course, COVID and lockdown. We've been so restricted. Gyms have been shut. Exercise classes have been sort of nixed and knocked on the head because even in community centres and stuff like that, we've not been able to be indoors.
Yeah.
There's been times where we haven't even been able to exercise as a big group outdoors as well.
Sure.
Maybe a maximum of one other person you've been able to meet up with. So restrictions over the last year, I guess first and foremost, might have been the biggest problem that some of us have faced. What else might we have on there? Reasons why people might not exercise. It could be, we're expanding on that a little bit, and thinking like it's not just COVID that has made people or got in the way of people's access to resources. Activities that they could be doing. There's cost. We're thinking about cost, and we're thinking about travel and getting there.
Yeah.
Now of course, COVID's going to kind of maybe magnify all these a little bit more because travel becomes so much more harder. You've maybe spending money elsewhere on other stuff, maybe hours at work have been influenced, and all of a sudden, like stuff that were barriers beforehand, cost, transport, location, like time, and maybe it's even more so over the last year, not COVID directly, but maybe it's even just adding more strain to those barriers that were there in the first place. Maybe it's like even pre-COVID and post lockdown, you've still got to get the kids to and from school.
Exactly.
You've still got to get that essay in for uni or college or whatever it might be. There's stuff that needs doing. Maybe you're working on the side as well. There's always stuff that needs doing. And it's just finding time to get it in as well, and that is where like stuff that I've done in the drop-ins on a Monday morning, I've helped some of the learners put together like their own 24-hour schedule because we've all got the same 24 hours in a day. It's just a case of how we manage them, and it's too easy to sit there and think, oh, do you know what, I'll get up and I'll exercise, or I'll get up and I'll do XYZ at 12 o'clock.
Yeah.
And you just sit and have a bit scroll on your phone, or you do another game, and then like 12 o'clock comes, you're like, I'll do it at 1 then. I'll do it at 1. I've got all day. And then it comes, and then like you might get those things done, but those 4, 5, 6 hours beforehand, like you might have actually been getting other stuff in that time. It might have been a little bit of evening exercise if you'd done that thing earlier. A little bit of like just time management's a big thing.
There's always stuff like as well, like where it's like, oh well, I'm supposed to eat at this time, so I can't exercise, or like, oh, I've just eaten, so I need to wait 2 hours after this, and then it's like, no, I need to eat again. It's like, so the way that you schedule, your diet around your exercise as well is also like important, because people that can quite easily be a roadblock as well.
Definitely. Now, I would probably say, like, if you've got your meal time set to a certain time, try and set your exercise to a certain time as well. Try and set it every day. If routine works for you and repetition and consistency works for you, just set an alarm on your phone, like 10 minutes before whatever time it is that you're going to be, just to remind you, mind you're exercising in 10 minutes, give you time to get changed, get yourself psyched up, get yourself maybe even a little warm up in, and then like it's happening at the same time every day. Sooner or later it becomes just as routine as getting your breakfast, or getting up, or going to bed, whatever it might be. And once it's routine, it's a lot easier to do when the motivation isn't there.
Sure.
And like I say, you're much more likely to just show a little bit of discipline and do it even though you're not feeling it, because that is just the time of day that you do that thing, and just thinking about fitting everything that you need to in your day, maybe fitting yourself a couple of hours in for hobbies and stuff that you enjoy, and just staying on top of your time and managing your day, because like I say, me in particular, I've gone from both one end of the scale to the other. I went from working 6 days a week and feeling like I was just like no time to sit and chill and just sort of putting out fires left, right, and centre, to all of a sudden I'm on furlough and I'm sat at home all day. And it was like, well, I've got too much time now. I've gone from having not enough time to too much time, and again, like the full day can come and go very easily before you've done very much, really. So we're thinking about time management and running out of time. Like I say, other commitments as well, work, kids is always going to be something that we've got to think about. I've recommended that clients who, maybe they're lucky and they've got a partner who's available with them on a morning, but they are the only one around on an evening to pick the kids up from school. So maybe speak to the partner and say, look, can you get the kids ready for school while I go to the gym, or do this half an hour for myself? And then after work, while you're still working and I pick the kids up, I'm free to go and do that then. And I'm not thinking about like, oh, I'm watching the clock, like to make sure that I've got time to get to the gym and feeling like I'm rushing in and out and panicking if I'm stuck in a little bit of traffic, Mentioned as well, doing almost like a child sort of like a creche sort of idea, I guess, where like say if you've got sort of like 3 or 4 moms or parents that are all wanting to exercise and struggling for time, can one of them pick all of the kids up on Monday and give the other guys time to exercise and swap over and somebody else does it Tuesday, sharing that load around a little bit and making sure everybody can get a little bit of something done, So like I say, there's usually a way around these things. It's just, like I say, realizing how your own circumstances applies, and just sort of like I say, a little bit of trial and error sometimes as well. So I guess that's kind of like an umbrella idea that sort of covers a lot of different reasons, I guess, like even just the cost of a gym membership or the cost of going to a class and paying for it, as well as maybe travel or parking on top of it. You're either paying for public transport or you're paying for fuel. Maybe it's just not feasible. Maybe you do live a little bit out of the way a little bit, and you've got to be traveling further than most other people. And especially now, like people are going to be sick of training at home now that things are open again, and you're probably going to feel it a little bit more, like especially if classes are going on, but like the nearest one to use half an hour away.
Yeah.
Probably going to be a little bit sort of like, bitter might be the wrong word, but a little bit sort of like feeling like you're on the outside and you don't have access to that, and sort of wishing that you did, and maybe thinking, I don't want to just keep training at home and doing the same thing that I've done like over and over again. But that's the time now where we've got the nice weather outside, get to the park, go to the beach, whatever it might be, make the most of it, because 3 months time tops, we're going to be cold weather again. We're going to be limited what we can get outside and do. And, we might be in a position where we might need to be training from home a little bit more again as well, depending on what's available to us.
Yeah, I think that obviously anxiety is another one, right? Where people, if they've got, it's like conscious about the body image, and then they don't want to, they might think if they go to the gym that they're gonna feel uncomfortable, or people are looking at them or something like that. So that's another reason that people just don't exercise, because they think, well, if I don't go to the gym, I don't have to worry about that, So it's
exactly, yeah. It's easier to sort of it's such a shame as well, because it's almost sort of it's self-depreciation, really, isn't it? It's putting everybody else before yourself and doing the thing that you need to do. It's almost like the opinions of other people is going to dictate what I put myself out there and do, which nobody should have to feel like that, And sometimes it's an issue that needs to be addressed in a gym or within a fitness environment. Normally, it's entirely self-contained, and all the people that you feel are going to be looking at you and judging you and laughing at you when you get to the gym. Most of them are going to be happy to see you there and probably even willing to help, but that doesn't make it any easier walking into the gym for the first time. Again, maybe it's a little bit conscious of your image or even just your fitness, maybe it's not the way that you physically look aesthetically, but maybe you're going to get on the treadmill and within 2 minutes you're going to be out of breath, and that leaves you feeling a bit embarrassed. You don't want to feel like you're going to have to go in the gym and leave like after 15 minutes because that's your max, when you've got people coming in doing like 2 hours at a time and stuff like that. You've got to remember, of course, the only competition that you're up against is yourself, and always remind yourself as well that everybody in a gym was in that position at some point where it was their first time in a gym. Everybody's been there. I've been there. I had a harder time mentally with it as a PT than I did the first time in the gym, because I was then going up to people and saying like, oh, like I've got my qualification. I know you've trained here for 2 years and you've never seen me face before, but kind of get used to seeing it, sort of thing. Do you want to come with me and I'll give you a little bit of help, although you've managed fine for the last 2 years? It was a little bit of a strange one, but like I say, going into any gym for the first time can be quite daunting. It's really easy to feel like it's their environment and not yours. But you know what? Within a week, you'll see a couple of new faces and you'll realize that they're now in that position and you're maybe hopefully feeling a little bit more comfortable, you know?
Definitely, man.
And that's a really good point, buddy, you know, because a lot of what I've talked about so far has been physical limitations and physical restrictions to exercise, and you know, not being able to worrying about the cost, and maybe you don't have the equipment, you haven't got trainers, you haven't got gym gear in itself, you know. And then of course, like you say, buddy, there is the emotional side of things, there is the mental side of things. Again, how many people right now would love to go back to the gym but don't feel comfortable because of COVID and stuff like that as well, you know. Anxieties, of course, again talking about depression and stuff like that, that's going to limit the opportunities for exercise as well, because
Definitely.
kind of when you get into a hole, you can be your own worst enemy and just talk yourself out of
Totally.
anything that's good for you.
Yeah,
you know,
100%.
because it's almost like that voice in your head, you know, the illness or the problem or whatever it is that you're working to sort of resolve. You know, I've always thought of it as its own entity. It's not you.
Sure.
It's a voice that's manipulating you to hold you where it wants you. You know,
Exactly.
and to keep you in the position that you want. You know, and it's easier to control you and sort of what you're doing if you know it feeds you all these negative thoughts and stuff like that. And I'm no mental health professional, you know, I'm just talking from experience and from obviously working with certain clients over the years and stuff like that. But it's tough when you're feeling that low to shake those feelings off and just go and exercise, you know. But exercise is one of the least used antidepressants in the world, you know, if not the least used, you know. Even just, can you get yourself moving? Can you stretch? Can you bring your heart rate up? Can you get some deep breaths in? I guess, can you feel alive a little bit? You know, sometimes, you know, like sometimes I hate being out of breath. Do you know what I mean? But sometimes I really, really stop and think to myself, like, I'm alive. Do you know what I mean? My heart's beating. I'm struggling. I'm struggling to breathe. It can be quite an empowering feeling as well, you know, to just sort of like you always say when you're breathing with the yoga and stuff like that, when you're present with every breath, you know, it grounds you a lot more. It gives you a lot more of a stronger foundation to work from.
Yeah,
it holds you in the moment a lot more and gives you a lot more perspective. So like I say, start off small. I'm not saying get yourself out there and do like do a 5K or something like that.
Yeah.
Go for a walk around the block. You know, if that's something that you haven't felt able to do or something that you haven't done for a while, that little win just lays the foundation underneath you. And again, it's little changes, it's little wins that paves the way eventually. Do you know what I mean?
Do triathlon straight away out the gate.
That's straight in there, mate. Yeah, why not? Because you know what? There's no better way to assess your own fitness rather than doing everything all at once with some of the most elite athletes out there as well. You know? That's a way to really make yourself feel great. Yeah, straight into something like that.
Yeah.
That is where some of the stuff that I've talked about in other courses, I know that I talk about it quite a lot when I'm talking about components of fitness and stuff like that. That is where being able to identify stuff that is more suited to yourself and your own body type and your own skill set can like lead to more success, because you're going to have a better time with it at first.
Sure.
I'm not saying if you really enjoy something, you've not got to be good at it. Do you know what I mean? And like, if you want to go and do something and you enjoy doing it, go and do it. You know, there's no wrong body type to do a certain sport. Like if you've got like an endomorph that really, really sort of would be better suited towards something like a shot put or something strength based. If they love doing the high jump, let them crack on. Do you know what I mean? Like, part of the aim is to be happy, do something that you enjoy. We're not limited that like in that way by our shape and our build.
Of course,
But again, if you are a little bit sort of self-conscious, if you're a little bit like, if you're a little bit dubious, a little bit doubtful, finding something that you're going to go along and have a little bit of an easier time with. Now, again, it's not supposed to be easy, but something that you feel that you can manage. Do you know what I mean? I guess that's the main thing. Something that's manageable. And then that's a success straight away. It's a win, it's an achievement, and you move on to the next one, you know. Like I say, I always think about it as like hitting like a little speed power up in a video game. Like, you hit your goal, and then you speed off to the next one with that little extra boost of momentum that you've got. You know, give yourself something attainable to do, and then go and smash it.
I think even if someone wants to do something like the Great North Run, it's obviously like a half marathon. But
Hmm.
a lot of people walk that, so it's like you don't
Yeah,
have to have like an elite level of fitness to do that. I mean,
yeah,
you're not like trying to win it. So it's like if you want to raise a bit of money for charity and you think it'll be a good little motivator, you could run
absolutely.
as much as you can. And then when you
Hmm.
feel like you can't run anymore, you could just walk the rest of it. And a lot of people do. A lot of people walk the whole thing. So it's like
Yeah, yeah.
if you, even if you wanted to do something like that, you can. So
Yeah, it's an achievement, isn't it?
yeah,
Like it's an achievement, and I guess if we haven't exercised for a while, getting anything done is an achievement. Like if you wake up, if you do today's stretching video at the end of the day's session, and it's the first exercise that you've done in a couple of months, if not a year, well done. You've achieved it. It's done. It's boxed off. It's got a big old green tick over it, and you can move on and do something else now. It's like getting that first one under your belt is so important, and I guess the better an experience you can have the first time, the more it can sort of drive you on, and the more likely you are to go again. Like if you turn up at a class and you just feel like it's so out of your capability and it's above where you are in terms of fitness, it's going to be disheartening, and you're much less likely to go to another one.
yeah,
And you're much less likely to turn up the next week. And you know what? You might not even look for something more manageable. You might just go right back into yourself and say, right, I tried. I'm just gonna go back to doing nothing again now. I tried, it's not for me. And it's so easy to fall into that habit and,
yeah,
and, and into those patterns as well. So again, give yourself half a chance. Find something that you feel like you can achieve, or something that you're gonna really really enjoy, or something that you feel as though you might be good at. Maybe something that you did years ago that you've
yeah.
maybe sort of not done for a while. Reconnect with that, especially if it is fitness wise. And I mean, do you know what? It doesn't have to be, like you say, it doesn't have to be intense. Do you like going and having a couple of rounds of golf? Do you know what I mean? Like, is there somewhere you can go and do that and walk around the course? Because that'll be exhilarating compared to like a year sat on the couch. It'll be
Yeah,
such a big change, and it really will. And you'll probably not even think of it as exercise or movement, and you'll get home and you know what, your chance, I'd put money on that you're going to feel pretty good about it, and that you've achieved something.
exactly,
So
dude.
again, set yourself up for success the first time, as best you can, rather than setting yourself up for failure. Like, don't book yourself onto an insanity class if you've
Oh,
never done
fucking hell.
any exercise and because then straight away you're going to go, okay, like I'm not fit enough for exercise classes. Like,
Yeah.
that's not the case, but I can see where people connect those dots and say, look, that's not for me. I'm going to find another route in a couple of weeks, and then before you know it, it's been months, if not years, and you've maybe not picked anything else up new since.
It's all, it's
So
yeah, mate. Honestly, I think that's such a good point, actually, dude. Because I think it's easy to do that in it, and it's like, yeah, if it's beyond what you can manage, and then you cancel it. That's the worst. So yeah, you're right. I think
yeah.
building realistic goals is definitely
Yeah,
important.
you might know yourself before you even go to the class that that's going to be your outcome, and that's
Yeah,
almost justification before you go. It's almost like, okay, this person's been nagging on at me to go do some fitness for ages. I'm just going to go to this class and prove to them that I can't do it. Do you know what I mean? And all you're doing is sort of, you're not proving to yourself. You're fooling yourself and convincing yourself that you can't do it, when really you're not. You're not proving the point that you've gone out to prove. Do you know what I mean? Like,
hmm,
you've been totally accidentally, and I see where it comes from, but you're your own worst enemy at that point. If you're going into it with that mindset of, I'm going to hate this, I'm not going to be able to do this, what's the chances that you finish the session feeling good? It's pretty slim,
yeah,
to be
it
honest,
is.
isn't it? Again, there, a lot of different reasons why people might not exercise. COVID aside, pre-COVID, after COVID, there's a lot of reasons that can get in the way of people's exercise, and it might not be high enough on the list of priorities. It might be that you always put other people first, and you're running around after other people.
I mean,
You might not have the time. You could be a carer. Like, there's all sorts, isn't there?
yeah. I mean, I'm wondering how long it'll be before I could exercise again now, because obviously after COVID, like you just normal activities sap your energy. So I think like if I
Yeah.
exercised, I would just be like dead. So I think it'll be a while before I'll be able to exercise again, just because it's like it drains your energy so much. It's
Hmm.
unreal. So
Hmm.
I think even I'm just kind of thinking like I wonder how long it'll actually be. But
Well, that's exactly it, buddy. You know, because a lot of what we've talked about so far has been to do with the things that have been put in place to help us avoid COVID and
yeah,
not catch it. But of course, um, it seems that right now there's more people that I know personally that have got it and had it than there was up to this point. You know, the first lockdown 1 and 2. You know, so of course then you're talking about a couple of weeks that you probably can't exercise.
yeah,
Um, you know, however long it's going to be before you're back to sort of full capacity again, and you know, even sort of post lockdown, we're all mingling again a little bit more. We're going to be getting colds. We're going to be getting the flu. We're going to be exposed to germs and contaminants that we've just got no immune system for right now because we haven't been exposed to them for,
yeah,
for
exactly.
18 months, you know. So,
Yeah,
you know, I'm expecting a couple of bouts of illness towards the back end of this year that's not even COVID related, really, you know. Um, I remember even just Christmas last year, I went and saw my sister and my niece, and she was full of cold, obviously having been at schools before the school shut. And then that was it, mate. It just hit me like a ton of bricks over Christmas. And just absolutely loaded up with cold, just because
well, yeah.
I hadn't seen anybody for the thick end of a year, you know.
The
So,
yeah,
so again, there's going to be illness that's going to be getting in the way as well, you know. Can we just bring things down a little bit, you know? Again, I've got no experience with having COVID myself, and I know that you sort of the way that you're feeling at the minute, buddy, is like just total wipeout, total write off, trying to do any sort of exercise. Of course, other illnesses, and when you're feeling up to it, like you say, even just like a little stroll or stretching
that's
your
what I'm
legs
saying. Yeah, like
or something you like, it's going to be tough.
helps.
But it's a good way to sort of keep yourself moving rather than stopping entirely, isn't it? You know?
Definitely. Like I
Yeah.
went for a good little walk yesterday. I'll probably go for one like a bit later, and that actually helps a lot. It's not high intensity, but it's just like a little bit of exercise, get out the house, get some fresh air, and actually that's good. I think enough for now. So
Absolutely, buddy. Yeah, yeah. You know, so if you are feeling a little bit under the weather, of course, listen to your body. Sometimes it's better to not exercise at all. Sometimes doing a little bit of something is better than stopping entirely. You know, and that is only I guess only you can really be the judge of how you're feeling in a situation. But of course, just something to be mindful of back end of this year. You know, you might be lining up for your first cold in the thick end of 2 years. You know, so it might be a little bit of a rough one, but you know. Try not to, if you can, let it totally sideline you from doing anything at all. You know, even if it is just those little bits to keep you moving. It doesn't have to be a total ban on exercise. You know. Right, guys. Okay, so we've covered quite a lot there, actually. If you don't mind just loading up the next slide, please, buddy.
yeah.
We're gonna, like I say, just thinking about technology a little bit more and thinking about how technology's affected our health, positively and negatively in the last sort of 30 to 40 years.
Yeah.
So the first question that we've got there is exactly that. How's technology affected our health both positively and negatively in the past 30 to 40 years? So we're thinking technology in general. I think we'll save anything to do with sort of media, social media for question 2. Technology in general, though, you know, I guess at a first glance, it's amazing some of the stuff that we can do these days. You know, when we're talking about, you know, taking valves out of the heart of a pig and putting it into a human heart who needs a heart bypass or something like that.
Crazy,
Like
man.
it's absolutely amazing that we can
Yeah.
do stuff like that. You know. We've got other technology, like of course, sort of wearable tech, like there might be a Fitbit,
Yeah.
you know, that helps us monitor our health a little bit more. You know, it might just be an app on your phone. You know, it might be something like MyFitnessPal that you're using to record your food, track your calories, making sure you're getting enough of this vitamin and that mineral and stuff like that. So we can actually keep a more accurate log as well. You
Yeah.
know.
I think they're class, man. My mate's got one, and he's he's in the army, and he's all about his fitness, and
Yeah.
you know the things that it measures, like it measures your sleep quality and
Mhm.
your heart rate
Yeah.
constantly, compares it with previous workouts. It's like yeah, they're really good. Like
Yeah, it's like technology that was available to pro athletes
yeah,
in
yeah.
in the early 2000s. You can get now for 20 quid and wear it on your watch.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's crazy. It's such a big change. Like I remember getting my the one that I've got like a Samsung Gear Fit, and
Yeah.
it came with a phone upgrade one year, and I was absolutely amazed with it, and it's an awesome bit of kit. And Alex was quite jealous, and she said, you know what, I wish I had one of them, that was sort of when she
Hmm.
was at the restaurant doing a lot of steps every day, even just for the step counter.
Yeah, of
And
course.
she managed to get one online for about 20 quid.
There you
You
go.
know, and
Yeah.
I mean, 20 quid's 20 quid these days, and if it's got to go elsewhere, it's got to go elsewhere. But it's certainly more affordable than it was 10 years ago. You know, the
Exactly.
idea
Yeah.
of having a little thing on your wrist that tells you what your heartbeat's doing, what your stress level is. You
Yeah.
know, how well you're sleeping and stuff like that. Like you say, buddy. You know, I'm sure some of them can do your body fat percentage nowadays.
It
Like
can, yeah.
it's crazy. It really is. You know, so there's been a lot of good come out of it, I guess. You know, when it comes to the way that sort of technologies come in and sort of impacted our health. Um, but then there's some negatives that's come from it as well. You
Of
know,
course, yeah.
automation. How many of us are more sort of sedentary day to day
Yeah.
because there's machines that do the job that 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago people were doing.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of assembly, a lot of packing, a lot of shipping.
Uh-huh.
A lot of it is automated now. You know,
Yeah.
online support, telephone, sort of like what do you call like call centers and stuff like that. Some of that's automated now. Like how
Mhm.
often nowadays do you ring a customer support line and you go through
Yeah, it's so bad.
however many rounds of automated stuff before you even speak to a person?
The worst one is for me easily the only certain places do it, but when it's like you try and get cinema tickets for somewhere, and it's
Hmm.
literally like it's like you got to say what the movie is, and like the automated thing's got to guess what your answer is, and it's like
Oh yeah.
you wanted 2 tickets for, and that is the worst. God,
It's like yeah,
I don't know if I'm sure places still use that as well, because I'm sure I like but that is the worst. That like I'd much rather have
yeah,
one where it's like press one for this, press two for this. But when you
yeah.
actually have to say something to the robot, that is the worst, because it just never gets it ever.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. No, no, you're right there, mate. You know, and it can be stressful. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean? It can be stressful. Like my Wi-Fi went down week before last, and I knew that it was going to be a morning on the phone, and it was going to be follow-up phone calls, and like I maybe's only spoke to one real person in that whole time. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
So it can make some things a little bit more stressful. It can make things a little bit harder to access. It can be a distraction as well. Technology, I guess, you know, be it video games or sitting and playing on your phone.
true.
Again, you know, not even thinking about some of the ramifications of social media, but just the actual time that is spent scrolling through stuff. You
Yeah,
know,
man.
you could be you could be moving. You know, it doesn't have to be exercise, but even if you were running the hoover around or doing the washing up or dusting, you would still be more active and getting more exercise and having a better impact on your health than sitting there on like level 500 of Candy Crush. You
Yeah,
know, so like again, it can be a distraction. It can actually get in the way. You know, for all that, particularly a phone, it can scan the thing on your wrist and it can tell you what your heart rate is, and it can save it to your phone, and you've got a handy record to come back and check. But if it's telling you that your resting heart rate's really high because you're quite unfit because you're not exercising, you're spending more time actually setting things up on your phone to monitor your health than you're actually doing to improve your health. You
exactly.
know, it can be a little bit distracting as well. You know, and again, thinking about health is more than just the physical side of things. You know, technology can quite easily replace a lot of genuine human contact in our lives as well. You know, which has a lot of negative effects as well. You know, seeing somebody in person, having a conversation, you know, maybe it's holding somebody that you really care for. I'm sure is something we can all appreciate a
Oh
lot
yeah,
more after the last year. You know, um, again, you know, it's kind of been necessary over the last year, but I mean, how easy is it just from technology? Like now, I'll just fire someone a text and see how they're doing, rather than get together, have a coffee, have a proper catch up.
hmm
You know, like how you doing today? Oh, I'm all right, mate. Are you all right? Yeah, I'm fine. Nice one. Have a good day. Like that might be the extent of a conversation, and it's not the same. It's just not the same as genuine human face to face connection. You
dude.
know what
Like
I?
when I was a kid, man. Like, and this is kind of almost going on the second one, but like it was like people used to knock on your door, right? And I think the idea now of like someone knocking on the door is like quite scary. Like I think like you know what I
Oh
mean? It's like
yeah,
the thing that, but like that was the way that you would check to see if your mate was in.
yeah.
You just go
You'd
knock on
look
the
for the
door.
house. Yeah, you'd look for the house that had all the bikes out front, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And then you'd know where everybody was.
In
You know, so yeah, that's a really good point, buddy.
and obviously we had like you'd call them on the landline maybe, and
Mm-hmm,
then
hmm
you ask is so and so there, and then that's it. You go and you're like, right, I'll meet you here, and then that's it. You go
Yeah.
there, and if they're there, awesome. If they're not there, then you're knackered. You have to go back home because
Yeah, you go
there's
back
no
home and ring them
mobile
again,
phone.
like, what's going on?
So
Yeah,
like that was just
yeah.
it. You know what I mean? But
Yeah, that's a really good point,
and
buddy. You know, even just like that sort of thing and socializing, how much of that is now done online. And I mean, like exactly like you're saying there, buddy, by the time I was 14, 15, definitely 16, I was coming home from school and jumping on MSN and talking to people that I'd
yeah,
been at school all day with.
the
You
classic.
know, I
I
wasn't I
know, I
wasn't
know, I
going
know.
out and playing football and stuff like that. I'd like literally at the end of the last session, I'd say it to my mates like, "Oh, I'll see you on MSN in an hour then."
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? And yeah, granted, we probably weren't getting into as much trouble as we might have been if we'd have been kicking around the streets and stuff like that. But
yeah,
that, it's not as common anymore, is it? Do you know what I mean? Like we in the street that we're in, on a night you'll see like a couple of kids maybe playing out if the weather's nice. You know, as opposed to 20 years ago, it would have been chock full. Like front doors would have been open, kids up and down,
dude.
in and out of houses, and it's not like that anymore.
Do you remember when people used to write stuff like on the school bus window or whatever, and they would put like IDEMT? Do you remember that? Do you know what that means?
Yes, if destroyed even more true. Yeah,
Yeah.
that took us a second there actually. Yeah, yeah. Oh, I forgot about that, and nobody would destroy it because well, I forgot about that. Yeah. Oh, quality, man,
Yeah,
quality. And you know what? You just don't get that over text or Zoom or FaceTime.
yeah.
Like it's just not the same. You know. So even in like those are developmental years for kids.
I
Do
know.
you know what I mean? Those are social skills that they're going to take into adult life, into working life. You know, and like granted, like it's probably going to translate pretty well because a lot of communication for work's probably going to be done online in the future as well. Like as it's going that way. It's like I say, especially over the last year, you know. But like I say, there's a social skills and sort of communication skills that are sort of suffering really, I guess, you
Yeah,
know,
man.
through technology being so handy and I guess so affordable as well nowadays. You know, like I say, everybody's got a tablet. Like everybody's got be it a phone or an actual genuine tablet or something like that, or a PC in the home. You know, most people do these days. You know, and like I say, it's taken over some of those other hobbies. Do you know what I mean? That you might have done growing up.
Yeah.
So yeah, technology, a lot of good and a lot of bad. You know, it's always going to be like a two-sided coin, and it's always important to sort of look at both sides of that coin as well, rather than just technology's entirely good or technology's entirely bad. Um, like I say, just being a little bit critical of it and thinking about that. And then we've got the dreaded question too, which is of course how has media had an effect on our health?
Oh yeah.
You know, which again, social media alone can be, when used correctly, really motivating, really empowering, really informational, really educational, but it is very rarely used right. And we are very rarely just looking at stuff that is beneficial to us and going to drive us and that's going to be good for our mental health in particular.
If you think about it, dude, right? Like when we were growing up, if you saw like someone who was like a famous pop star or whatever, right? Maybe if you saw them in a magazine, they would have like um a lot of makeup on, and then they would also have maybe it would be slightly retouched, right? And then going back even further, it wouldn't even be retouched, but like
Yeah,
that's a little bit of airbrushing. That's the most of what it was. But now it's like, you know, there's like on Instagram a photo will be retouched, the person's probably had a lot of surgery, and then there's all this,
potentially,
and then
yeah,
there's filters on top of that, so it's like there's just like so much
yeah,
going on there that
and
actually, and then
angles
the
and
angles
perspectives
as
and stuff
well.
like that. Yeah.
So it's like there's so much more going on there from when we were younger. That's totally different. Like the level of beauty standards is just insane, dude. Like it's
Yeah,
crazy,
like
man.
Alex's niece is I think 30. Oh yeah, she's 13. She just got a teenager, so she's bang on all like the TikTok and stuff like that,
Hmm.
and she'll come out with phrases and stuff like that that just flies over my head, like, and I'm
Yeah.
just totally disconnected from it like
Yeah,
now.
same, man.
Um, Yeah, it's like that episode of The Simpsons where Grandpa Simpson says, "I used to be with it." Then they changed what it was, and it was like, yeah,
That's
it's
actually
it,
true.
it's
Oh,
bang
funny.
on, isn't it? Really,
Yeah,
you
man.
know. But yeah, technology. Kids have got like, you see kids 10, 11-year old with phones and stuff like that and
Hmm.
social media accounts, and it was nothing that we had growing up. But like I say, the
Dude,
most I had was MSN. Like I never even had MySpace.
yeah.
I went MSN, Bebo, Facebook. Like that was the way that I
Bebo,
went through.
classic.
Yeah,
I had
Bebo. Yeah,
MySpace as well. But
yeah.
dude, like, yeah, that's the thing. It's like, I mean, if it's an easy example, but if you look at someone like the Kardashians, right? Like, just there's so much, they have so much. I mean, there's so much makeup, and that's fine. That's their choice, right? But then there's like after that, there's like a lot of surgery there, and
Yeah,
then
yeah,
obviously there's like a lot of filters, and then they pay people to get their photos retouched professionally because
yeah,
their brand's so important to them. So it's like they've
yeah.
retouched it, they actually changed the way that they look. They're like, so there's just like, it's like a whole thing. It like, for people to look at that and to think it's attainable or it's realistic, I mean, it's
Mm-hmm.
obviously quite damaging, really, because it's
Yeah.
it's it's not a reflection of reality of how a person or a human looks, really. So
Yeah. If you went back 10 years and told somebody that your life aspiration was to be an influencer, people would have been, what's one
it
of
doesn't
them?
even exist. Yeah,
You know what I mean?
exactly.
What is one of them now? Whereas like, I remember reading a study not long ago. I think it was over in America, but I think it was like 2 out of 3 kids that they'd interviewed and asked what they wanted to be when they grew up were saying YouTuber. Just I want to be a
Wow.
YouTuber. Like
Yeah.
it's insane like that. That's a career path now. Do you know what I mean? And
Crazy, yeah.
you've got to do it right, and you've got to kind of hit gold
Hmm.
and find your niche a little bit. Not everybody can do that, but it's amazing that that is just something that is like it can be an aspiration these days. You
What
know.
exactly? What I think we spoke about it before, but I think there was one thing where like Khloe Kardashian, I think recently, like she had a picture where I think a grandma took it or something, and she looked like normal. It was like a normal picture,
Mm-hmm.
and then she like totally freaked out over it. I think they took the picture down, and then she went on Instagram Live, and she's trying to prove that she's like, no, my stomach's actually this flat, and like but like a lot of people were saying that they think she had like a filter which made her waist look thinner on the live
Oh yeah,
while she was online. So it's like
really,
while
yeah,
she was live. So it's like I just think that that's kind of like crazy that
yeah,
that's the level that people are
yeah,
going to. So
yeah. There's being analytical and just having that pinch of salt that everything online probably shouldn't be taken as exactly what it's sort of being portrayed as, because
yeah.
there's obviously a sort of underlying motive. There's obviously a reason why they're putting that information in front of you. It's the same as any media, really.
Hmm.
It serves a purpose. It's got an agenda, and then to sort of convince yourself or to convince other people that that is real life, or to try and convince other people that it's real life, it's just madness to me. Like it really is. Do you know what I mean? Like it's one thing to like look at a picture that's got a filter on. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And like just be aware that there's a filter on it, and then use that in your judgment of the picture. But like it doesn't necessarily mean that
dude.
you fully believe that that person looks like that in real life.
And it's like they've got a vested interest as well. So of course the people have retouched the photos because they've got brand deals based off their appearance. Like they'll
Mhm.
sell stuff like it's like skinny tea, like tea with laxatives in it, and it's like
Yeah,
they won't
yeah,
ever drink that stuff ever. But it's like because they've got this brand deal, they'll be making like a ton of money off it. So it's like it's they've got a vested interest in
yeah,
retouching the photos and making
yeah.
them themselves appear a certain way.
Well, that's a really good point, buddy. Because that well, wasn't anything that I'd ever really thought of. The fact that media, I guess, is selling us products to put into and onto our body that we wouldn't be exposed to otherwise.
And I
You
mean, the
know,
people who are selling them aren't really don't even use them. I guarantee it. I can't
yeah.
guarantee it, but like probably though, right? Like
You can guarantee most people out there that are endorsing something probably don't use it
that's what I'm
other than
saying.
for
Yeah,
that
exactly.
endorsement.
So
100%, buddy. Yeah, 100%. So it's sort of like it's almost like you just got to be aware that you're looking at a distorted reality, or not a reality at all, really, isn't it? It's
hmm.
almost like everything can exist online in a certain form, but
Hmm.
like, don't be fully convinced that it looks like that in real life as well,
That's
or that it is that way in real life.
I mean, and it's kind of sketchy in a way because you got to think about it, right? Because as you're saying, dude, like that's what an influencer is ultimately. An influencer is
Yeah.
someone who makes money off their ability to influence people. So it's like
Yeah.
if they've got a core audience, whether that's from YouTube or from streaming or whatever, and then they get brand deals which are completely unrelated to what they do.
Hmm.
And that's how they make the bulk of their money, through sponsorship and brand deals, and it's got something completely unrelated to what they do, and so it's yeah, and when it's stuff like that, like skinny tea, like with laxatives in, or whatever it may be, like they will be selling that product, but they probably don't use it. So
Exactly, buddy. Exactly, mate. So we're potentially being exposed to more and more stuff, more products, more companies, more people that are potentially, more often than not, just looking for some, like a demographic or an audience to milk. Really, I guess,
mhm.
isn't it?
but
It's like farming, really, isn't it?
but for a big company, dude, they don't, like, back in the day. This would never exist, because back in the day, like, a company would use TV a lot more people used to
Mhm,
watch
mhm.
television. They would
Yeah,
pay for, like, TV advertisements, but
yeah,
they're gonna make so much more money if they get, like, once again, just for a random, not necessarily this person, but if they get a Kardashian or someone to post an Instagram picture with, a bag of a certain brand, that will
yeah.
get them so much more money than if they paid for ad space on TV.
hundred
So it's
percent,
like,
mate.
it's just the way that the media's changed. So
Yeah, and it's probably sticking around for the foreseeable as well. So it is just kind of, I guess it's on ourselves really to just keep that sort of almost a little bit of a skeptical mindset, isn't it, for anything that you do see online, and just take it at face value, take it as it is. It's an image, it's a picture, it's not that person in real life, or it's not the product in real life or in reality. By all means, try something out if you feel like it, if it appeals to you. I mean, if you're following a gaming channel and they say, "Oh, try this new game," and if you fancy it, then it's potentially put the right product in front of you.
of course, yeah, it's
We're
not always going to
potentially
be bad. Yeah.
getting exposed to more of the right stuff as well. With personalized ads and stuff like that as well. But then, like you say, buddy, there is so much of it that can work against us, and there's so much manipulation on it. It's smoke and mirrors, isn't it? You know what I mean? It's all smoke and mirrors, and you've just got to sort of stay in that mindset and sort of, I guess, kind of have your guard up a little bit online. I guess, which is obviously all to do, partially to do with obviously like e-safety and stuff like that as well, and just making sure you're not
Yeah,
following any
definitely, man.
untrusted links and stuff like that as well, because that can soon put you in a bit of a predicament as well.
Yeah, of course, man.
You know? But yeah, the media has definitely had a big effect, again, positively and negatively on our health. That's for sure.
I mean,
Um,
yeah, yeah. If you want to look at, like, the positive aspects, look at how big the fitness community is on social media, and it motivates more people to be fit.
yeah,
People find out
yeah,
about more, fitness creators on YouTube or whatever it may be, and then
yeah,
end up, making positive changes in their life because they've been
yeah,
influenced by, a community online. So, like a good fitness community. So,
yeah.
um,
It's a really good point, buddy. Yeah, it's one of them where it's like, it's one of them tools, isn't it? The internet, where if you use it right, it can be amazing. It's
yeah,
just so easy. It's just so easy to end up using it wrong, isn't it?
yeah,
You
exactly.
know, which is where some of the stuff that you guys actually talk about and go into comes in, I guess. Browsing online safely and stuff like that, and
Yeah.
sort of having your wits about you and stuff like that. So, I guess Daniel, I hate them as your guy to ask if you've got any questions to do with any of that side of things as well. Um, Okay, guys, let's finish up this slide then. So, how has our thoughts on safety affected our health, do you think? Because the first thing that comes to my mind when I think about stuff like this is, of course, health, in a world where we're sort of health and safety gone mad, really, you know. In a way, rightly so, everything needs a risk assessment, everything needs to be sort of risks and hazards need to be reduced where possible, of course. But there's like another side to it as well. So I'm thinking like straight away, when it comes to safety,
Hmm.
how many kids play out as late as we used to these days?
True.
Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
parents don't take their eyes off the kids out in the street, or it's like, right, I'm making you tea, come inside where I can see you, and you can come back out afterwards.
Yeah.
None of this. Or get yourself just home when like the last like where the lamp when the lamp street lights come on, get yourself home there.
That's actually,
You
yeah.
know, yeah, that's get your backside through the door before then.
No,
You
that's a good
know,
point, mate. Yeah.
Whereas, yeah, it might be like I used to go out and play with my mates and go into the next street, the next estate down,
Same.
over the footy
All
field.
over the place, yeah.
Like I say, the kids that play on our street don't leave the street, and
No,
and
yeah,
and right
but of
and rightly so as well. You
course,
know,
yeah,
but
yeah.
again, you know, we're thinking about safety, not just for ourselves but for our kids who's living next door, who's driving past. You never know. You
Yeah,
never know.
exactly.
Um, and then of course, you know, thoughts on safety is of course affecting our health in a lot of good ways as well. Where, you know, we can say to somebody, where if you're suffering from this, or if you've got this condition, we understand enough about it now where we can say, look, don't do this activity.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? Like that sort of thing. Of course, it all comes from sort of like scientific developments and progress and stuff like that. You know, thinking about now we know full well if you're pregnant, don't get on that roller coaster. Do you know what I mean? Whereas once upon a time, that information just wasn't there. You know, and it's stuff that we take for granted now, like these things that like, oh, that would obviously be bad for you if you were pregnant, but at the time they didn't know that. You know,
true.
and
Yeah,
technology's come forward, give us a lot more research and a lot more information where we can actually help people be safe
we've
and
got.
exercise safely.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a lot of machines are a lot safer. You know, you've got like Smith
Of course.
machines. You've got like
Hmm.
all the gym instructors are clued up on techniques, so it's like these kind of things are going to stop you from getting an injury. So
Hmm.
that's
Hmm.
definitely like you know, people are
Yeah,
on the lookout for that, obviously. So
100%, mate. And speaking of injury and like that sort of workplace as well, like it's a good thing. It is entirely a good thing. But how many jobs again are now being done automated because people having a person do that job was too much of a risk. Do you know what I mean? Like, oh, it's one too many people's lost a finger to the blade, or like got their arm caught in like a moving part of the machine or something like that. It is a right decision to make to obviously take people out of that position. But if that was quite a manual job then, and then they're now sat just clicking a computer all day to keep the machine working. Of
yeah,
course, that's going to affect your health because you're then sitting down 8 hours a day and not standing and moving and walking and whatever might be involved in that as well. You know, so there are some ways, of course, again, that safety's come in, and our thoughts on safety actually do work to keep us safe
excuse me.
and keep us healthy. And then, of course, there's other ways where, of course, when it comes to safety, it's obviously the priority. But you know, there are some things that have evolved, like the workplace. You know, where our health maybe has had a little bit of a knock-on effect because we're not doing as much manually. You know, again,
True,
coming
yeah.
back to that automation and stuff like that. Right, guys. So just aware of the time there. We've got a couple more slides to do. So we'll go next slide, please, buddy, if you don't mind, mate. And we're looking at reasons why we might overeat. So sort of circling back to where we started earlier on this morning, and we'll see if there's any that we didn't actually get in there while we were sort of mind sweeping a little bit, yeah. So reasons why we might overeat. We sort of course, we mentioned depression and we mentioned the emotional side of things and the emotion side of eating. And of course, if you have a load of sugar in your system, all of a sudden you're probably going to feel a little bit better for the time being. You know, it's just a case of how long that lasts. You know, of course, your mood would be included in that as well. Stress would be included in that as
Yeah,
well. Mindless eating and probably comfort eating would be in there as well. You know, all this emotional side of things, which, you know, normally it's sometimes a hard pill to swallow, but it normally means that it normally indicates that there's something underlying that needs addressing. You know, be it a deep rooted fear or insecurity or an experience from the past or something like that. You know, like I would like straight away if I had all the money in the world, I would just straight up I'd counselling for everybody because I feel like it's something that everybody can get something out of. You know, you don't need to be in like feeling like you're in a real hole and it's like a last resort. I feel
yeah,
like everybody could get a little bit out of a little bit of self-reflection and a little bit of addressing things that they've maybe been sort of repressing or putting to the back of their mind or finding excuses not to deal with for however long,
yeah,
you know. And normally we mask that by just eating the wrong foods. You know, sometimes it's a control thing. It's like the universe is obviously so random, pretty hostile at times, and it's a feeling like, look, the one thing that I can control in life is food, and we just end up getting that almost it's like a coping mechanism, you know, and we end up having that bad relationship with food rather than a good relationship with food and a healthy relationship with food, you know. So again, you know, again, I will stress I am no mental health expert at all, but again, from experience, when I found that someone's overeating for one of these reasons, there is normally something underlying going on, and it's either for me to start digging into and try and find out a bit more about my client, or to recommend and say, look, I feel as though there's underlying issues and stuff that you're probably better off addressing. You know, you might
Yeah.
be better off in the long run dealing with this issue that's affected you for however many years subconsciously than sorting your diet out right now. You know, I know what's
Yeah.
going to be more beneficial in the long term, and it's the mental health side of things. You know,
Good point. Yeah.
food will fluctuate, food will change. It's about just sort of maybe opening up with yourself a little bit and dealing and starting to address those problems. You know, I don't want to say dealing with as though it's something that can be just brushed off, but addressed and sort of taken square on. You know, and then your food with your relationship with food can be just that,
Right,
and
that's
not a coping mechanism.
it's a really good approach, man. Because I feel like you're attacking the issue at the root. So, like, obviously, that person's going to be much more likely to be able to kind of eat healthy after that. You know what I mean? If the because that's if that's one of the reasons that they are overeating, then I think so. It
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, like if you had appendicitis and I gave you painkillers that took the pain away, your appendix is still knackered. Do
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? Like it's still something that needs addressing and needs taken out, and that fix that we put in place has dealt with the symptoms but not the problem. And
Definitely.
sooner or later, you're going to be in the same position. And then again, you know, I mean, bit of a tangent, but I've known professional wrestlers over the years become addicted to painkillers because they haven't had time to take
Oh
time off
man,
to
yeah, yeah,
deal with a physical injury that they've had to push through. You know, and your
definitely.
emotional injuries are exactly the same. If you don't push through them, then whatever you use to deal with them, eventually becomes like a crutch, and you feel as though you can't sort of do without it. You know, and could lead to even more unhealthy habits from there as well.
Pro wrestlers as well. They are doing like they're performing like 3 times a week, sometimes 4 times a
Yeah,
week,
yeah.
and jumping off the turnbuckle and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. Like especially if they've got like like so like they're putting their body through a lot of stress constantly, and they just don't have time
Mhm.
to rest. And I mean, it's their bread
Yeah,
and butter, so they need to keep going. And yeah, that's why you see a lot of wrestlers get like really bad injuries, and that just that they try and push through it. And a lot of them, like you say, yeah, they'll take like painkillers and stuff like that because
yeah,
it's
exactly, buddy. You know, it's like when you broke your leg, for example, if you'd gone to the doctors and they'd give you painkillers, you'd have been pretty annoyed, wouldn't you? You'd have been like,
oh
sort this
yeah,
leg out, please. Like, will you actually put my leg back to the shape it's supposed to be and put the cast on? And it's like,
exactly,
yeah,
man.
your mental health is exactly the same. Of course, it's not always as easy as it sounds, but addressing the underlying issue can actually help resolve a lot of these problems and like I say, just allow you to enjoy your food again and not necessarily be entirely a coping mechanism, you know.
Definitely.
Um, and we've got a couple of other ones on there as well, you know, that we might have sort of skimmed on early this morning, be it sort of friends and different occasions, like, oh, we're all going to the game. Like I know yourself, you've mentioned obviously if you go up to St. James's or go to watch the football, you're gonna get a burger or you're gonna get a hot dog or you're gonna have a couple
Definitely.
of beers beforehand or at half time or whatever it is, you know. Like I say again, just to not be the only one that's not doing it, you know. I
Exactly that.
remember I
Yeah.
remember there was before I was ever training, and I never really got my head around it, and I was quite young. I remember going on a night out, and there was one lad that came along, and he just drank orange juice all night because he was big into his fitness. And I was
Yeah.
like, I remember looking and thinking like, I wasn't judging him because I was like each to their own, but I remember thinking like, I'm glad that's not me. Like,
Dude,
do you know what I mean? Like, I'm
I
glad I'm
like
not the outsider like that. You know?
mate, like I had it one time, right? Because I don't really drink anymore, but like I went out with all the lads, and dude, like it was just a nightmare, mate. Like it was like it's the more drunk that they got, it's like, oh damn, why are you not drinking? Oh, I can't have a drink, and it was
Yeah,
just like constant, mate, like all night, and like so the next time I just have a couple of drinks, and I'll get
yeah,
one drink, and I'll have that drink for like 2 hours or something, and then
yeah,
nobody asks you
yeah.
anything because you got a drink, so it's like. That's the way to do it. Well, for me at least, because it's NSC, you don't get absolutely hounded by everybody.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Just
asking people,
nurse the
asking
same
if
drink.
I'm all right and stuff. It's like I'm fine. So I can't don't want to drink.
I'm
It's
I'm
like
fine. Yeah.
you know what I mean.
Yeah,
It's
I'm
like
already drunk enough. Thank you, thank you. Like
it's
that'll
like
do. I'm at my limit. I'm gonna
it's
really,
like mate, it's
really
just
suffer
like.
tomorrow. Yeah,
But yeah, like
yeah,
that's the thing. I won't even drink to get drunk. But as long as you got
yeah,
like, if I've got a drink or something, then that's it. You're fine, you know.
yeah.
And but yeah, if you like if you're that guy who's not drinking and all your mates are drinking, if you just feel like a buzzkill, then
Yeah, yeah. Now again, don't ever be peer pressured into something that
of
you don't want
course,
to
yeah,
do.
don't like
Stand,
that's it's
stand,
yeah,
stand your ground. Yeah,
exactly,
like if
yeah,
you don't
that's
want to drink, don't let
definitely.
anybody make that decision for you. You know. But of course, if that is that might be something that you're a little bit conscious of, you know, and you might be thinking like, oh, I'm going to do it just because the guys are like
Yeah,
exactly like you've just said there, buddy. I've pulled one before where I've just moved on to Diet Coke for the night and
yeah,
told
yeah.
people I'm on Jack and Coke. Do
That's
you know
it.
what I mean? Like,
It's
oh
stuff like
yeah,
that.
Jack
It's like
Daniels in this. Oh, all right then.
it's the job, and then yeah, that's
Yeah,
it.
yeah, like
Get
oh, because
people off your
yeah,
back in
yeah,
it.
because it's a real problem if it's just Coke. Yeah, it's a real problem if it's just Diet Coke.
I
But
think,
yeah,
yeah, I think if you're with a bunch of your mates as well, I feel like they're worried that you're not having as much of a good time as everybody else is. So
of
I think
course,
that
yeah,
that's where it comes
yeah,
from usually. But I think,
yeah.
yeah,
You
but
know,
like
but yeah,
that's,
you've got to do what's right for you in that situation, haven't you?
yeah, that's my tip. If you don't want to get plastered, you know, you can just have a drink and then you can sip it and hold on to it for a couple of hours,
Just
see how long
nurse
it
it, yeah.
goes, and then that's it,
Just
and then
nurse it.
good to go. Basically, that's my little tech is there. So
Yeah, definitely, mate. Definitely. There's your top tip of the day. Top tip. So I think there we've probably covered friends, occasions in general as well. You know, we've sort of talked about weddings, buffets, all of that sort of thing, birthday parties that you might end up at. Of course, again, you know, there's a buffet on and it's a kid's birthday party and there's sausage rolls and cocktail sausages. Like, you don't want to turn up with a chicken breast in a Tupperware, do you? Like, let's be honest. Like, nobody wants to be that person. And again, if that's what you're doing for you, like, don't be scared of being judged if that is what you want to do. But I know that so many people are so conscious of it, you know, and not being like the odd one out. That it's so easy to just go along and just do what everybody else is doing. And you know what, as well, while I'm on there, and I'm thinking because peer pressure is not really on there in itself because I mean, like, what about at work? Like, if you ever been, and I know obviously like the guys in the office are absolutely awesome where we are now, but if you've ever been in a job, and again, if you're watching at home, this might be something that you've come across before. What about when you're the only one at work that's trying a new diet and you're eating well, and everyone else is taking the mick because you brought a salad in when they're going to Greg's for the dinner? Do you know what it is? Do you know what it is? Like, they immediately feel self-conscious that you're making an effort to improve yourself and they're not.
of
And it
course,
is
man.
easy, it is easier for them if they just drag you back down to their level and then
Yeah,
nobody's
man.
trying and then they don't need to try. If you're trying, it makes them feel bad that they're not. You know what I mean? Don't be put off by that at all. You know, I think a lot of that comes from a place of insecurity, to be honest. You know, and just like, oh, they're trying and I'm not. Well, we can't have that, can we? Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? Like, and it's sad when you put it like that. And that thought
very
process
often.
probably doesn't even go through the head. But I think that's where a lot of that comes from. And again, don't be deterred by what other people are doing and saying, because it's like, you do you, isn't it? You know, that's all anybody can do. You do you. Um, but yeah, I think that's probably touched on a lot of the main reasons that I've come across over the years why people have ended up sort of overeating. And if we could just spin on to the next slide, please, buddy, we'll get a look at some of the more what we would call sort of sometimes paired eating or definitely like more specific examples of overeating. And I just want to read through these and see if any of them is what you've experienced before, buddy.
Probably
And
every single one of them, I think.
yeah, just even at a quick glance, you know. So we've got the reward syndrome. Uh, you've had a really bad day. Your boss is a nightmare. Everyone's driving you crazy, and you feel like you deserve a reward. So it's like, you know what? I'm gonna order a takeaway tonight, or I'm gonna have a bit of cake, or whatever it might be. I'm gonna have a chocolate bar from the kids' pack lunch cupboard or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, because we're not all in the position to just not have bad stuff in the house. You know, it's easy to say don't just buy it, but when you're buying for other people and providing for other people as well, you know,
So like,
it's sometimes a little bit harder to make sure that there's no crisps in the house or there's no cereal bars or whatever it might be, you know. Um, so it's not always that easy. And
I
this
mean,
idea of like, yeah, I'm going to give myself a reward. Like, does it always have to be food?
well, yeah, no, I think you mentioned that before to me actually, and actually I thought it was really interesting because obviously I know you were saying that a lot of you had a lot of clients that would come in and they would say like, oh, you know, I've done this, so I'm gonna eat this on the weekend, Robin.
Yeah,
And I remember
I'm going to reward myself.
you
Yeah.
saying like, well, what you reward? It's always food. Why can't you do it? Give me something
Yeah.
else. So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like you're rewarding yourself by eating into your progress. Like
yeah,
that's what you're doing there. Like instead of losing £2, you're rewarding yourself by just losing one. How does that work? Like
yeah,
that's not
exactly.
beneficial for you at all. Like that is, as Trump would say, that is potentially the worst trade in the deal of trades, isn't it? You know. But yeah, it's thinking about sort of like it doesn't always have to be food. Like if you get to the end of the week and you've hit a goal, can you treat yourself to a new protein shaker or a new supplement or some new trainers or a new gym top or whatever it might be? You know, treat yourself to an afternoon out. Like it doesn't have to be food related. You don't have to go somewhere and get afternoon lunch. You know, or afternoon tea. Like there's a lot of ways that you can reward yourself in ways that are going to be more beneficial to your goals than detrimental, like this one actually is, you know. And again, that what the one client in particular that I pulled that up with, I said, why is it that it's always chocolate? And she said, you know what, when I was raised growing up, because chocolate was that much of a sort of like a luxury back then, or much more of a luxury than it is now, you know, it really was a reward for me growing up. So she's grown up rewarding herself with chocolate every single time,
Mm,
and now has passed that habit on to her kids, where when her kids do something right, she rewards them with chocolate, you
yeah.
know. And then I've got all three of them in the gym saying, oh wait, I'd like to lose a little bit of weight. So I'm like, right, well, we need to look at some of these thought patterns that are feeding into this vicious cycle that we've got going
True.
on as
Yeah.
well. Because I can kick your backside in the gym, but the other 23 hours of the day, if you're still off doing some of this other stuff, it's going to be for nothing, you know, or it's going to really, really impair the progress that you can make. So just
Completely.
remember, guys, your reward doesn't always have to be food related. And it doesn't always have to be in with both feet at the wrong end of the spectrum. Like I've rewarded myself, so I'm gonna have like a full size family trifle. Like no, like if it is going to be food related, I would have like a couple of biscuits or something like that. You know, you don't have to go whole hog. Like otherwise, a win's pretty soon turns into a loss just through you celebrating it. You know, which it is less than ideal, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
Okay then, guys. This is one I've come across quite a lot that can be really, really damaging long term. The Last Supper syndrome. I'm going to start a diet tomorrow. I will never eat cake and biscuits again, so I must eat everything in the house.
Oh
This
man.
idea of like perpetually being close to starting a diet and in this mindset of like, oh, everything must go, like I've just got to eat it all. Like that's more dangerous than just admitting to yourself that you never got the diet. Like,
Like literally like I have a friend, right, who I think I told you this before, but honestly, mate, like I was in disbelief that words were actually coming out of his mouth because he was saying that you know, you always say diet starts tomorrow. That's like the cliche.
mhm,
His cliche. He literally said diet starts next year. He was like, oh, there's only 2 more months left in the year. So then like a New Year's resolution, I'll do my diet. So it's like 2 whole months of just
yeah,
eating badly. It's like
yeah.
what the hell? What's so you gain like 20 pounds?
Well, that's it. Rather than
Like
starting there in January, then you're going to be down there. Like,
yeah,
yeah, that's like,
it's crazy, man. But like he
yeah,
actually said that, and I couldn't. I was in
yeah.
disbelief, man.
That is crazy. Yeah. For my New Year's resolution, I'm going to make it as hard for myself as physically possible.
Yeah,
Yeah, like that's it's backwards, isn't it? You know, but it just goes to show that like the way that we think about food and our own habits isn't always as logical as you might think. You know, and we do have our own biases and our own habits and our own experiences start to show themselves. You know, which is why it's important to like sit and just like I say, assess things like this. You know, like I say, you'd be better off just admitting to yourself that you're not dieting and just watching your food a little bit more than saying to yourself, right, I'm dieting tomorrow all the time. So each day you're just eating anything and everything. Like that's worse. That's worse than just saying like I'm just not dieting, you
yeah.
know, because it's a dangerous mindset to be in. It really is. Okay, then the closet syndrome. Nobody's looking. They know that I'm on a diet, but if they don't see me eat it, they won't know, and it doesn't count. And you know, my biggest sort of rebuttal to that is one that I heard on my PT course actually, and it is what you eat in private, you wear in public.
That's
Like
good. Yeah, I like
you
that.
can't hide it. You can't hide it. Like if you sit at home and scran 20 chuck ices and you go out, like you're probably going to look like someone who sits at home and scran 20 chuck ices, aren't you? Really, you know,
Yeah.
like you're not going to be fooling anybody. You know, if that was the case, we'd all be coming out of lockdown and nobody's saying us eat anything for a year. You know, and we'd all just be golden and ready to go. You know, but that's not how it works. You know, it's so again sometimes more counterproductive. You know,
Yeah.
you're in this mindset and you think that you're getting away with it when really you're not. And then, like, God forbid somebody ever points out, I thought you were on a diet, but you've like actually put weight on. The whole thing just unravels from there. Like, it's game over. It's game over because it's like someone just put a hole in the bottom of your ship. Like,
Dude.
yeah, like I say, it's a pretty dangerous mindset to be in, rather than just allowing yourself like these little treats from time to time, but factoring them in. You know, the last one, like the Last Supper syndrome. Part of that stands out to me is I will never eat cake or biscuits again. Why? Why won't you ever eat cake or biscuits
I
again?
know.
Like, you can fit them into a diet and still be healthy and still be a decent weight and
So
still
much
be
more
able to
practical
move
as well.
and be active. Of course, it's more practical, yeah. And rather than just like, I'm never gonna eat cake and biscuits again. Like, if you really enjoy them, what's the point of getting fit and healthy and then just never have anything that you enjoy? Like I sort of mentioned earlier on,
Yeah,
you know,
man.
it's a balancing act. It's a balancing act. We don't want it all to go so far that you can't do the stuff that you enjoy, because that's totally like missing the point of being fit and active and healthy and happy, I guess, at the end of the
Fish in a
day.
rice cake.
Yeah, that's it, mate. Yeah, fish and a rice cake. Yeah, what a guy, man. What a guy. I wonder if he's still on the same diet.
Oh
Wouldn't
man.
wouldn't
Dude,
surprise us.
sorry, very, very brief tangent. But like I saw this thing of this guy. It was like a viral video. Um and he only eats raw meat and he believes it's healthy. And I was
Do you
thinking,
know?
like, he's
Oh, mate.
literally like, this guy is gonna die like any minute. But he was
Mhm.
literally like eating raw. It was the most disgusting thing I think I've ever seen in my life. But
That's so bad, man. That is
yeah,
so bad. Like, that reminds us. Again, I know we flipped off on a bit of a tangent, but one of my dad's workmates the other week, he was like rushing through his dinner break. He called in home, and he'd seen this packet of chicken goujons in the fridge. Didn't realize that they needed cooking, and it was raw chicken. Mate, he took them out to work and he scranned them. I don't know how he's eating this whole packet of chicken goujons without realizing that the chicken was raw.
oh man,
Mate, 3 weeks off on the sick.
wow, yeah,
3 weeks off
it
on the
really,
sick. Like,
if you get salmonella, mate, it's
he has been
bad.
bad.
But
He has
dude,
been bad.
it's like we're going back to, just to where it said how media has affected us. Think about some of these fringe diets, like crazy stuff like the carnivore diet, and you got people like Joe Rogan talking about it. It's like, that can't be good, man, for like having
Nah.
no vegetables in your body and you're only eating meat. It's like, man, I
Yeah.
don't know, like, that's
Yeah.
not, I can't see in any world how that's good for you. So
No,
it's
no,
like,
no, me either, you know, and that's where, like, on all the courses that we deliver, I always talk about, just remember that what is working or perceived to be working for one person won't necessarily work for you. It's totally
yeah,
different. Like, you can't just go online and see a diet that somebody else is eating and it give you the same results,
I know.
you know. You might not even eat half the food that they like. Where do you go from there? Do you know what I mean?
Exactly,
If you find
exactly.
someone's diet plan and it's like 12 eggs for breakfast, you don't like eggs, well, you're snooking, aren't you? If you understand food enough to figure out, right, I need this much protein at breakfast, this many carbs, this many fats, you can put the whole thing together yourself, and you're so much more flexible. You
Exactly.
know, there's a lot of different options out there. It's finding the right one that works for you, not just believing what's sort of endorsed by a celebrity or an influencer or
True.
sort of like company ambassador or something like that. You know, that's a really good point, buddy. Okay, guys. So because it's their approach, I'm in the kitchen preparing a meal, and the biscuit tin lid is off, and because I'm there, I'm gonna eat them. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just there in front of you. You can't say no. I'm on with something else anyway. I just fancy a little snack while I'm on. Like, we all like dipping in the biscuit tin. Like, I don't know anybody who doesn't like a little trip to the biscuit tin from time to time. But it's like, it's a case of like, if that is coming up regularly and that is a regular problem, like every time you're stood there cooking a salad, like you've got the biscuit jar on the hob in front of you, like move the biscuit tin. Like, just put it somewhere else. Put it somewhere else where you can still access it, but not every single time. That now you've got this habit building up, you're gonna see the hob, you're gonna see the oven, and just already think to yourself, right, well, I'm biscuit time. Do you know what I mean? Like, you'll already be reaching for the
Dude,
biscuit like straight away.
how I got so fat over COVID is literally that. It's that one because
just
it's
because
there.
it was there.
Mm.
Yeah. You know, I'm sure that's been a much bigger problem all through COVID as well. Like you say, because it's there. You know, it's there. I'm here. I can't go anywhere. You know, and the food's not there for long, is it really? You know.
So,
Oh,
exactly.
yeah. Not to mention as well, what if it's food that's going to go off that you've bought at some point and you're like, oh, I've just got
That's
to eat
all.
this
Yeah,
because it's going to
that's
go off.
yeah.
Yeah. Just eating whatever's in. Okay then, guys. The I'm fed up syndrome. I'm bored, lonely, cross, and angry with myself or somebody else, and I'm gonna eat something naughty. So it's almost a little bit of self sabotage, isn't it? There,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? Like I'm annoyed with somebody else, so I'm gonna eat something that impacts my own health. Like, or that you've really showed them. Do you know what I mean? Like you've really put them in their place. Whereas like it is just thinking like, okay, again, is there something that can be done to address the problem in the first place? Why are you fed up? Why are you bored? Why are you lonely, cross, angry? Can it be addressed? Can it be dealt with in a different way? Or is there a better outlet for it? You know, is it a hobby? Is it exercise? Is it a different activity? Is it socializing? You know, getting it out rather than just transferring that emotion into your food and just eating the wrong thing. And then let's be honest, probably feeling guilty within an hour. You know, probably feeling guilty that you've had it. Once those overwhelming emotions have subsided a little bit, then you're just left there to feel guilty at the fact that you've done something that you probably know that you shouldn't. Like you've literally said in the wording, I'm gonna eat something naughty. Like you know it's something that you shouldn't be having. And it's a little bit of self-sabotage, and it's a little bit of like the world's against me. Like I can't control this thing over here. I'm gonna just control what I can. You know, which
Yeah,
usually ends
exactly.
up being food. Um, so yeah, there's normally a different and a better way to resolve that as well. You know, slippery slopes. A bit of a funny one. I missed breakfast and ate far too much at lunch, so now I'll go the whole hog. It's broke, so it's a bit broke, so let's smash it to pieces. It's like I've had a bad breakfast. I'm now gonna like go to Greg's and get like a 4-pack of muffins and dust them, and then I'm gonna like order myself a pizza for tea. Like that is again, that is very much like your mate's mindset of, do you know what? I'm gonna get myself on the right track, but later. I'm
Exactly.
gonna get myself on the
Diet
right track
starts next year.
later. Exactly. Diet starts next year. Slippery slope is normally, oh, I'll get back on track tomorrow. You know, rather than no, just get back on track at your next meal. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's on the planet in front of you. You know what you should have. It's maybe, mate. I've known people do this approach when their next meal is prepped in the fridge, ready for them to go, and it's like within 30 seconds you could be eating the right food,
Yeah.
but you stood there doing like beans on toast or something like that just because
Yeah.
it's like, right, I'm off the wagon today now,
Just 2
and
liters of
that's where
Dr. Pepper, just
yeah,
smash.
yeah, just like yeah, wash it down. Yeah, we need to get out of this idea of we're either on the wagon or we're off. You know,
Yeah, definitely.
it's not a case of I'm either doing it or I'm not. It's a case of I'm always doing it. How much can I be doing it today? How much do I feel like I'm up to doing it today? Am I down here? Am I just doing a couple of little bits? Or am I feeling really motivated? You know, there's no on and off switch. There can't be, because you knock that switch off, it's so hard to turn it on again. It
True.
really is. You know, you tell yourself you're having a week or two off, and before you know it, it's been 6 months, and then like you say, you've got a much bigger hole to get yourself out of, and it's called the slippery slope for a reason. You know, it's always giving yourself more work to do the longer you leave it, really. So yeah, get back on track the next chance you have to get back on track. And contrary to popular belief, that is not Monday, that is not the next day, that is the next time you get to make a choice about your food. Make the right
Yeah.
choice the next time. Okay, depression. And again, I'm not talking clinical depression because I'm in no way qualified to really talk about that. But just this low mood, depressive symptoms. Now, of course, all of that, as well as genuine sort of clinical chronic depression, can lead to weight gain and can lead to more depression and more depressive symptoms, which creates a frustrating vicious cycle. And that is where I'm talking earlier on. We've got to break that cycle, and it comes from small wins. It comes from little wins and little successes of, right, okay, I got to the top of that hill today, or I got round the block in this amount of time, or I got to the gym and I signed my gym membership. Like a little win is all it takes to break that cycle. Now, it's not to say that once you're free of the cycle, you can't slip back into it.
Yeah.
It's an ongoing process, but it only takes that one little decision to get you out of that circle, and to just change something, add something in there to that loop, that every time you do it might get you further and further away from being in that cycle, you know. So yeah, definitely. And of course, coming back to what I mentioned earlier on, if you need to seek further help to deal with the underlying issue, then definitely do that. You know, it's 2021. We should be comfortable talking about mental health, and you know what, a lot of the sort of stigma around it should I've and rightly so has sort of dissipated over the last 5-10 years, you know. So there's no shame in talking about your mental health. There's no guilt to be felt for seeking extra help. We all need a little bit of extra help from time to time.
Awesome.
Don't be scared to ask for it. You know, it is out there, and I think certainly post COVID, it's going to be more and more available. You know, because like I say, it's been a hard year for most of us. You know, if not everybody in some way, shape, or form. You know, so definitely don't be scared to seek out that little bit of extra help. And if you don't know what that extra help is, come to me and I'll point you in the right direction, and I'll find out where that is going to be for you. Okay, guys, habit is a big one that we haven't really touched on too much this morning, and it's just like it's time to eat. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you're in the habit of, maybe you're just used to having like 11sies, like a mid-morning snack after sort of like breakfast and lunch. Maybe it's your habit and you're used to two breakfasts.
Yeah.
You know, what about second breakfast? Yeah, but yeah, you know, if it gets to that time of day and you're used to eating, you're probably going to eat, or you're certainly going to get cravings to eat, you know. And again, that is where you've got to address them elsewhere. Like, maybe it's thirst? You know, I think what's not really well known enough is that sometimes when we feel hungry, it's sometimes dehydration. So if you feel like you're overeating or eating in between meals, have a drink of water first before you go to the food, and see if that actually sort of satiates that a little bit more. And just leaves you feeling a little bit better, and you might realize that you've saved yourself a couple of 100 calories going in the tank there, you know.
Yeah, dude.
Just by water.
It's actually, you know, yeah, really good point, mate. Like, literally, sometimes when I've been like hungry, I've had a glass of water and it's actually done the trick. Like, weirdly.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Like, I'll take myself to the kitchen and think like, right, what am I going to do for dinner? And then I'll have a drink of water just because I'm there, and I'm like, oh, I'm actually all right now. I'll wait, and I'll wait another half an hour or an hour, and I'll get something then. You know, it's funny, you know. But yeah, certain habits, because we're creatures of habit, we're creatures of routine, aren't we? You know, if you wake up at the same time every morning, how long do you have to do that before you just wake up at that time without an alarm?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and your food's exactly the same. If you're used to snacking, certainly grazing and eating the wrong stuff at the same times throughout the day, you know, it's really hard to get out of that habit.
Definitely.
You know. So yeah, sort of addressing them and stuff like this, being aware of them and thinking about, thinking about the rules of the food and thinking, do I need that right now? You know, do I need those carbohydrates? Do I need that protein or those fats or those calories? You know, and thinking, just assess it a little bit more. We've talked about crowd pleasing quite a lot, just going along with everybody else and just doing what everybody else is up to keep them happy. Briefly sort of touched on paired event eating, where it's like, I'm going to go to the cinema, so I've got to get popcorn. You know, I'll always hold my hand up and say, when I go up to watch the Newcastle Eagles play, I get a hot dog at halftime. Like, the halftime whistle goes, I'm already in the queue for my hot dog. Like, it's you can guarantee it. Like, 3 things guaranteed in life, mate: taxes, death, halftime hot dog, you know. But it's like, it's one of them things where if it's having a negative effect on your health and you're not really sure how to balance that out in the rest of your life, it's something that you might need to address, you know, and start to unpair those 2 things a little bit. You know, can you have a cup of coffee without having a biscuit? Like, the answer is yes. It's just getting it into your mind that is okay. Definitely. You know, and like, that is actually what's going to be best for you, rather than habit that you're in, and that maybe thinking that the habits that you're already in are okay because there's been no drastic negative effects yet. You know, it's like, oh, well, that habit's working, I'll just stick with that, you know. But yeah, when it comes to certainly these paired events, it's funny how your mind just pairs things up and starts to associate things, like, it really is. But yeah, just something again to watch out for. And can we start to try and separate those things a little bit? Like, if you watch a film in the house, do you run out to the shop and get a box of popcorn? Like, probably not.
No.
Probably not. So you can do it. It's just, again, those things being paired up together. Of course, and we've kind of touched on the bottom two as well. Like, for others, if somebody's coming up and says, oh, I've baked you a cake, or I've done you a flapjack, or something like that, whatever it might be, and special occasions, let's party, you know, which, again, I'm sure there's lots of reason right now to be wanting to get together and have a little bit of a celebrate as well. Plenty of the wrong foods, and again, you know, it's just something that, you know, probably isn't going to be a case. It's happening every week, and it's not really something that you need to fix and address and find a way around. Like I say, go to a birthday party, have a bit of birthday cake. You know what I mean? Like, you only live once. It's not going to kill you, but you've got to fit it into the rest of your week. You know, you've got to fit it into the rest of your day and make sure that it's not building up on top of other negative stuff that's going on as well. Sure. You know, so you usually addressing the whole sort of 24-hour around it, rather than just, you know, like that one event that you're at the party for a couple of hours. You know, it's thinking about the bigger picture. Okay, guys. Well, I can definitely say that I've experienced most, if not all, of those at some point. And that's just myself, not to mention
Same,
clients that
bro.
I've worked with. You know, so don't be feeling sort of strung up, and like we've shone the spotlight on you this morning. You know, it's funny how many people are doing the same bad habits that you might be doing. Like it's not just you. Like these are things that I've helped people deal with, and that's just me helping for 7, 8 years now. You know, you're not the only person that is in these bad habits. You're not the only person with stuff within your diet that could do with a little bit of tweaking, and that you're going to feel the benefits of if you can tweak it and make it a little bit better. You know, again, it's not to shame any of these eating habits at all. It's just to maybe shine a little bit of light on and think, are they as logical as you might think? Do you know what I mean? Are they as rational? Do they make as much sense as you think? And normally, when you think about it, like it's not, like I say, and you can just sort of help to break down some of those habits a little bit. But again, if there's any of those that you feel as though you're particularly struggling with and you've tried to deal with in the past or whatever, let me know. And again, we'll try and find a way past that for you as well, because like I say, removing those barriers one at a time is the best way to sort of consistent progress, I guess, really. Okay, guys, so we've got one more slide to do just before we wrap up, and it is all to do with portion sizes and the food pyramid, really. So we're thinking about, okay, what is probably going to make up the bulk of your food, what is going to make up the bulk of your diet, what do we need more of, what do we need less of, certainly in relation to portion sizes as well, you know. So from this food pyramid, we can see sort of from the bottom, your carbohydrates is going to be probably the biggest bulk of your meals throughout the day. Now, again, that's going to be stuff like grains, breads, rice, pasta, which of course makes up a majority of our meal because it's a lot more cost effective. You know, when we think even during like the war and stuff like that, we needed our resources to go further. Of course, even stuff like potatoes and stuff like that, it's quite filling. Like I can do one jack of potato and I'm done. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm quite full, so they're quite sort of they're quite filling. And I mean, even to this day, that's how I'll build a lot of my meals. I'm like, right, I'll pick my carb first. Like I'm gonna have pasta. Right, okay, that limits down probably the sources of protein that I'm going to choose.
Yeah.
You know, I might have a little bit of fish or a little bit of chicken or something like that, and I'll build it up that way. I'm not finding fancy recipes online and following them and going out and buying like a whole cupboard full of ingredients that I don't have in the house. You know, just pick a carb, pick a protein, and you're normally pretty good from there as long as you can get some veg on the side as well. But we've got your carbohydrates, which is probably going to make up the bulk of your meal. Then above that, we can see that we're going to have probably vegetables and fruit. Now we can see on there that we've got like throughout the day, carbohydrates in terms of like actual measurements, we're probably going to be having somewhere between 6 to 11 servings, as it's sort of mentioned on the back of the packet. Of course, vegetables, fruit and veg, we really want at least 5 a day if we can.
Yeah.
You know, whereas we can even see that because fruit has a natural sort of higher sugar level, and it's good sugar, but it's still sugar. We're going to be we're encouraged to eat more vegetables because you're going to get the fiber and you're going to get the minerals and stuff like that without so much sugar in there as well. So that's where we can see that you're probably recommended to eat a bit more veg every day than fruits. Then coming higher up the pyramid, we can see that we're going to have probably 2 to 3 servings of protein a day, probably a serving of protein with each meal if we're eating 3 meals. And then exactly the same 2 to 3 servings of dairy as well, you know, be that sort of milk, yogurt, cheese, whatever that might be as well, you know. And then at the top of the pyramid that we're using very sort of sparingly is kind of the rest, where it's normally going to be quite high in sugar or calories, if not both, you know, like your oils, and then like I say, just anything else like junk food that might be high in fat or in sugar as well. That again, it says use sparingly. It doesn't say omit entirely. You know, it doesn't say leave out entirely. It's use sparingly. It's everything in moderation. There's room for nigh on everything in a diet if it's factored in right, you know, and if it's put together right. There's nothing that you shouldn't really be able to have from time to time in at least a small amount. Like I've never found anything yet with anybody I've worked with over the years, like unless you're allergic to it, you know, in which there's more reasons than just that to stay away from it, I'm sure. But yeah, like hopefully this might just give you a little bit of an idea about where you are with portion sizes in terms of relative to the other sort of foods on your plate as well. You want to make sure that your meal isn't just all carbs and no protein and no veg, you know, so we can use this a little bit. You can even print this off and keep it on your fridge and just sort of keep it handy wherever you store and where you handle food as well. And it goes quite well with the color-coded chart that we used in a previous session as well,
Yeah.
where we look at, of course, the reading food labels and stuff like that as well. So again, portion size might be a place to start if you feel as though you're just eating too much or you're eating a lot. And then, again, some of the other stuff we've talked about this morning is maybe a little bit of a smarter way around some of these eating habits and starting to address some of the problems that are actually underlying and maybe triggering some of the problems in the first place. You know, again, like maybe could even be like Daniel said earlier on, a little bit of anxiety. Maybe you lose your appetite altogether, or maybe you head for the cupboard and just start sort of like just like, you know, in Jack Frost where he's throwing them snowballs and his arms are a blur. But if you're just doing that, but like we're just like bringing food in like that, you know, because you're in a heightened state of emotion. Yeah, you're gonna have problems sooner or later, you know. So again, just thinking about some of these habits, and hopefully, you know, maybe this has actually pointed out a couple of things to you within your own habits that you've thought, you know what, I'm not the only one that's experiencing this. It can be dealt with. It can be done with, you know, and sort of overcome. So yeah, like I say, as always, my email is in the description. If you do want to reach out about anything, if you've got any questions, if you feel like you want pointing towards any of the resources or anything like that, of course, if we can just load up that last slide, please, buddy, just for the guys who, if anybody does want to come back and revise anything this week and to just have a sort of a recap on when's the next session and stuff like that, they can come right to this last slide as well, rather than sitting through 2 hours. As always, guys, please don't forget to fill in the survey, which is in the description. Doesn't even take 30 seconds, and it helps us out a lot. Your feedback's massively important to us. We like to know what we're doing well and where we can be sort of meeting you guys and meeting what you guys need even better as well. You know, you guys are why we do what we do. So failing that, guys, and if I don't hear anything beforehand, we'll be back here next Wednesday. That should say Wednesday at 10 till 12 for our last session, which is going to be body types and looking at different components of fitness, and we can start to pair up what I mentioned earlier and thinking about, you know, trying to find some activities that are maybe a little bit more naturally suited to yourself, that you can go out and get a real win under your belt the first time that you're doing it sort of post lockdown as well. You know, I wish everybody small wins this week, as we're coming out and going back to some kind of normality, whatever that might look like. You know, yeah, I hope everybody has a good week and is set up for success going forward. That's for sure. Do you have anything that you want to add this morning, buddy?
No, I actually don't, mate. I think that's pretty much it, to be honest. So I think that's good.
Spot on, mate. Cool. As always, I know we're sort of wrapping things up for this course and for this term in general. Keep your eyes peeled for anything coming up for term 1 next year, anything that's going to be starting back end of August or going into September. And let me know if you want putting on a mailing list as well, so I can just send out info as soon as I've got that. And then you've got it in front of you and sort of get signed up straight away to any courses that you want to do. Cool, guys. Right, so other than that, then yeah, I hope everybody has a good week. Stay safe. Like I say, don't get pressured into doing anything before you're ready. Everything in your own time and at your own pace. Look after yourselves, look after people around you. Thanks for tuning in this morning, and thanks, Daniel, for jumping on with us, buddy. Been a pleasure as always. Nice to have you back.
Yeah, same.
Definitely. Right, guys, so if I don't hear anything beforehand, I'll see you guys back here next week and we'll do it all again.
Thanks a lot, guys. Bye-bye.